The Thom Hartmann Program is brought to you in part by the Aiden Forecast, an investment newsletter with weekly updates of leading market indicators and a monthly deep dive into what the details of the economy and the markets mean for investors and retirees. On the web at aidenmarkets.com.
Wines have some of the highest pesticide levels in our food chain. This hour brought to you by ecowine.com. Pesticide-free wines, organic wines, imported from France by the Organic Wine Company, ecowine.com.
Hartmann Program is brought to you in part by Super Beets. Super Beets are sourced from non-GMO beets, and they're packed with dietary nitrates, helping to produce nitric oxide for more energy, stamina, and support for healthy blood pressure levels naturally. For more information, call 800-223-8242
or visit tomsbeets.com. Giving Tuesday, perfectly timed. It's the second day of our Free Speech TV Fund Drive. Our goal is for these 3 weeks for this show is $150,000 to raise that amount of money for Free Speech TV, and that's $10,000 a day for 3 weeks basically. And yesterday we hit almost $2,000. Our goal is $10,000 a day, so we're $8,000 in the hole already. It's Giving Tuesday. It's the perfect day to make a contribution. So please call Free Speech TV now and make a gift. 877-378-8669 is the telephone number, as I recall. Is that right, Nate? Yeah, that's right. Okay, thank you. And doing these things from memory. And it's, I mean, this is serious stuff. We're talking about, you know, the Republicans getting ready to really significantly alter America, to lock in Reaganomics in a way that might not change for generations. They're certainly doing that with the federal courts right now, locking in new judges after blocking Obama's appointments for the last 2 years, including to the Supreme Court. It's, I mean, these guys are completely shameless, and what they're doing needs to be exposed and discussed, although in large part there's no exposing of it in the corporate media, which is why you're here. It's why I'm here. It's, you know, we can get the message out. We can speak the truth. We can push back. We can speak back. We can speak truth to power. The big networks can't do that. If they speak truth to powerful politicians, those powerful politicians will refuse to come on their biggest shows, you know, the Sunday morning shows and things like that, and, you know, essentially punish them. And as a result of that, they end up not having a show anymore. So functionally, all these networks have become basically sycophants to the two political parties. You know, and don't ask embarrassing questions of Democrats about, you know, Bill Clinton's relationship with banks, and don't ask, or whatever, and don't ask unpleasant or uncomfortable questions of Republicans like, why do you guys keep voting to screw the average working person? Is it because, you know, the billionaires are lining your pockets? You're never going to hear that question. I might ask an occasional guest, but you're not going to hear it in the corporate media. Free Speech TV is vital. This is a lifeline, this network. And without this network, our American media landscape gets a whole lot more horrible, which is one of the reasons that, you know, not only please call now and make a gift, 877-378-8669, not only that, but also please make a commitment to yourself that over the course of the next week, you're going to tell at least 3 people about Free Speech TV. If every week you told 3 people, well, it would, if everybody watching did that, it would just be huge. I mean, we would double and triple the size of this network in less than a year. You can have a significant impact. Similarly with your contribution, a $10 gift, a $20 gift, a $100 gift, you know, whatever you can afford, it means a lot. It makes a big difference. So what are the premiums with a $30 gift? We'll send you a bumper sticker for the Thom Hartmann University. It's, you know, suitable for bumpers. It's a nice bumper sticker. With the $60 gift, you get the Free Speech TV 16-month calendar plus the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker and $60 can be $5 a month for a year, right? It's divisible by 12. $120 donation or $10 a month for a year. You get Van Jones's new book, Beyond the Messy Truth, and the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker. With a $240 contribution, you get Van Jones's book, Beyond the Messy Truth, plus Claudia Rankine's book, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Citizen. And we're going to try and get Claudia on the show to talk about, and Van Jones too, to talk about their books and why they're so cool. That's with a $240 gift. With a $360 gift, you get Beyond the Messy Truth by Van Jones, Citizen by Claudia Rankine, and Unequal Protection by me, a book about the state of our democracy. This is the book that I began, the first half of the book, when I was writing it, I thought I was writing What Would Jefferson Do, because that was my goal. And then I hit the Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad case in 1886. It blew my mind, and I ended up finishing this book as a book about the Supreme Court. So that's Unequal Protection. That's a $360 gift. And with a $1,000 gift, come to Portland, and Louise and I will take you to lunch. Or not always Louise, but I'll take you to lunch, certainly. I can guarantee that. And so anyhow, it's Giving Tuesday. Today is the day to make a contribution. You can do it right now by calling 877-378-8669. 877-378-8669. Please call now. This network is vital. Free Speech TV is such an important part of our media landscape. And it only exists, Free Speech TV only exists because you have helped get us this far. Please help us continue for the rest of this year and move into next year in a good position. Please, let's make up yesterday and make your contributions now. Thank you so much. 877-378-8669.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Greetings, my friends, patriots, lovers of democracy, truth, and justice, believers in peace, freedom, and the American way. Thom Hartmann here with you. So, new study came out. This from Professor Daniel Kim. It was published in Preventative Medicine, a peer-reviewed medical journal. What they found is that if you look at the 2016 budget that Bernie Sanders proposed versus the direction that the Republicans are going right now with their massive tax cuts for billionaires and big corporations, they project that the Trump plan is going to increase inequality and lead to 29,689 more dead people in 1 year, whereas the Sanders plan would decrease inequality and decrease the number of deaths by 31,302 a year. And in fact, if we even raised taxes on rich people, then we would save 68,000 lives a year. On the line with us, Julio Rivera, the editorial director of Reactionary Times, columnist with Newsmax, Right-Wing News, and Politichicks. ReactionaryTimes.com is the website. You can tweet him at, oh yeah, it's Julio. And Julio, welcome back.
Well, thank you for having me, Tom.
So the question, what's more important? More money for the billionaires, who seem to be doing just fine, thank you very much, or a longer life for working people in the United States?
Listen, what it boils down to is this Daniel Kim, first of all, he's a public health advocate. Who knows if he's not just in there putting together these studies so the health insurance industry can continue to get their subsidies.
The publishers of the journal knew.
Enabling this regulation that's crushing their competition. Listen, you could sit there and demonize billionaires.
You're asking, Julio, who knows if it's true? The publishers of the journal know. This is a peer-reviewed journal. They check their sources. They fact-check the information that gets published.
It doesn't matter if the sources are obviously skewed or have one sort of belief system. Listen, the truth is there's only 400 billionaires in the world. If you tax them all at 75%, which that study was calling for as the tax rate for people making over $500,000, not even in the billions, you wouldn't even come close to closing deficits for any significant
amount of time. That's why Bernie
time.
Sanders' proposal doesn't just raise taxes on 400 people. It does it on everybody who...
$3.6 trillion in taxes and still ran a $600 billion deficit. The key is going to be to increase competition in healthcare. It's the crushing regulations that are attached to, the Affordable Care Act, which the Republicans promised to repeal and couldn't. That's a factor. And even the American Health Care Act was basically a $600 billion spending bill in subsidies for the health insurance industry.
So what is more important, Julio? Tax cuts for wealthy? You say there's only 400 billionaires. Bernie Sanders' plan would raise taxes on anybody making over $500,000 a year. That includes a lot of millionaires, multimillionaires, 100 millionaires, the Steve Mnuchin millionaires. Yeah,
but there's not that many of those. I mean, if you look at it, and those are
about
40,000 in the world, not just in America, in the world.
There's going to be over $600 billion in tax breaks for foreign investors who are holding U.S. stock in this tax deal. I mean, it not only helps out U.S. billionaires, it helps out foreign billionaires, Julio. Why is it that you and the Republican Party, why is it that you and the Republican Party so consistently side with the very wealthy instead of working people? I don't get it. I thought you were an average working guy, Julio.
Very wealthy. It's siding with everybody and encouraging competition.
There is no everybody here. You've got a bunch of predatory billionaires and predatory multimillionaires and predatory monopolistic corporations who have been ripping America off since 1981 when Ronald Reagan, opened everything to them and declared war on working people.
Well, unfortunately, when you have a free economy, there is an opportunity for some people to attempt things. But
there's nothing free about an economy that's controlled by a couple hundred major corporations.
Overlapping.
You've got right now the Business Roundtable, which is a group of the 100 largest CEOs in the United States, running ads on television that appear to show an average-looking guy, even though he's representing the 100 richest CEOs in the United States. An average guy saying, oh, gee, this tax cut is going to be just great for me and for my little company with 200 employees here, or whatever it was, in some place in Wisconsin or something. And it is total BS, and you know it, and I know it, and most Americans look at this and know it, although they don't realize when they see that little print at the bottom of the screen, paid for by the Business Roundtable, what exactly that is. But, again, Julio, how is it that anybody in the Republican Party who is not, being paid, as all these politicians are, by these billionaires, by these multimillionaires, by these large transnational corporations to lower their taxes? You recall Lindsey Graham saying he'd been informed by the donor class that if they didn't get their tax break, they weren't going to make any more big contributions to Republicans. These guys are sold out, and I don't understand why you're defending them.
It's not that they're sold out. This is the way it works, Tom. People are leaving, and a lot of people left the United States. I can give you an example right now. Ireland has been very friendly to importing new businesses into because of the tax climate there. What winds up happening is eventually people are going to realize that the cost of doing business and all the hoops you have to run through in America are going to be too much for them to deal with, and they're going to be free agents internationally, and they're going to other countries. And they're going to do business in those environments where it's more friendly to them to grow their business. They get to keep more of their money. And believe me, all these evil billionaires, we better beg and pray that we can be able to keep them in our country, because once they leave, we're going to have serious problems in this country because they're the only real job creators here.
Let them go. Business people don't create jobs, Julio. Demand creates jobs. I would suggest that you might want to check out just a basic Econ 101 class. The main thing that drives an economy is purchasing power.
To recommend the same thing to you.
Feel free. I didn't mean that to insult you.
Numbers add up or make any sense whatsoever. You can tax everybody in this country at 90% that makes over $500,000. We're still it's going to give temporarily, right in that
when we did that for a 40-year period from 1932,
and then after that, we're going to have a disaster.
From 1933 until 1986,
we're going to have.
From 1933 until 1986, we had a top tax rate that was over 70% in the United States. And what happened? We had the strongest growth in the history of our country. In the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, and then Ronald Reagan cut those taxes, and that growth went negative. Ronald Reagan cut those tax rates on very, very wealthy people, and what happened? Wages froze.
You also cut them on middle-class people and lower-income, taxpayers.
No, he dropped the top tax rate from 50%, from 74% down to 28%, Julio. And then he raised taxes on working people 18 times, including doubling the Social Security payments made by 100% of workers, including people making as little as $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 a year. Reagan doubled their taxes while he cut the taxes on billionaires, and that ruined the American economy. And these guys want to do the same thing, and I don't get it.
You know,
Why do you want to hurt the job creators, Julio? I don't get it.
I'm going to tell you like this. Ultimately, and this is the basic truth out of all of this, we're going to price people out of doing business in America, and ultimately that will hurt lower income Americans because they're the ones that rely on those job creators, and they're not going to have jobs. We can't give everybody a government job, have this like China where you have, 100 people sitting in a factory putting dolls on heads. It's not going to work that way here in America.
Why not?
Why not? Is that really what you want? You want government control of everything, don't you?
I hear you saying that raising taxes on wealthy people is not going to work here in the United States. And yet we did it from 1933 to 1986.
Health insurance companies that offer different products.
Julio, you can filibuster me all you want. I'm not listening.
Okay.
I listened to your rant. I'm trying to respond to it. You're saying you can't raise taxes on rich people. It won't work. We did it for 40 years, and it was the most prosperous 40 years in the history of our country. What am I missing?
What you're missing is we live in a different world, in a globalized economy. There's no such thing.
You don't think it was a globalized economy in 1960
anymore? In fact, that was one of the things that Steve Bannon used to talk about when he was advising President Trump. What do we have to do to make the American economy stronger? How do we win here? The only thing that's going to, at the end of the day, these billionaires are human beings. If you tax them too much, they're going to leave. They're going to find a way around. I
love it. I want to turn it into a poster.
Happening.
That's even better than corporations
really,
are people, too.
Trouble, Tom. Like, you may not want to.
You can tweet him. Hang on just a second here.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
You can tweet him at, it's Julio Rivera, editorial director at reactionarytimes.com. Thanks, Julio.
All right, thank you all, as always.
Bye now. And welcome back, Jim. Whoop. Hang on just a second here. Somehow I missed that. Yeah. So let me see here. I've got this FDR clip. I was just looking for it, and because it desktop Tom stuff, FDR taxes. Because there's just, here we go, FDR on taxes. Let's see if we can play this for you because it was so cool. I think this
But in the barrage that we laid down against the Depression, we could not stop firing to haggle about the price of every shell. We kept on firing and fighting. And the important thing is that the war is being won.
That's a different one. Anyway, let's pick up some phone calls here. Bob, watching Free Speech TV in Tahlequah, Oklahoma. Hey, Bob, what's on your mind?
Hi, Tom. Got a lot on my mind. I just want to pick up with Julio there with your conversation that you were attempting to have with this man. I just want to say emphatically that the changing world that Julio describes is going to come crashing down all around humanity very shortly. It seems to me it's unavoidable.
Seems like it is as we speak, Bob. I mean, you've got...
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And I think he represents a lot of people that I've seen all my life who are just in denial. They just have a blind indifference to the facts of history, the consequences for the behaviors of this corporate-oriented economy. And they're in denial. A lot of these people are unconscious. They're inebriated. They're drunk. They're on drugs. A lot of them are. And if they're not, they're exploiting those people. And that works right up the chain. Julio's not in that chain. He's not up on the ladder very high. It'd be good to get some people on the air that could really have a remarkable effect on the conversation that we're trying to have about the economy that's not allowed legally. So that we can
What conversation is not allowed legally, Bob?
Crammed down our throats.
What conversation is not allowed legally?
The economy that we're not allowed to participate in the worldwide economy, the local economy, the regional economy.
How are you prevented from participating in the economy,
Bob? Could
Bob?
be emerging in a small D kind of way.
Bob, how are you prevented from participating in the economy?
Cannabis prohibition is illegal, and many people, including legitimate farmers, cannot plant their fields with hemp because it's illegal.
Wait a minute. Bob, are you telling me that the economy is on the verge of crashing because we banned cannabis in 1920, whatever it was?
No, I'm saying that prohibition is a product of this trickle-down economy. And so the Jeffersonian democracy that he envisioned, where people actually have a right to be educated and have a right to benefit from the fruits of their labor, it's not realized. We're still in the process of forming democracy, trying to have a conversation about what that would look like in a sustainable world.
Yeah, at the same time that our entire country's political system is being corrupted by big money. Bob, thanks for the call. We'll be right back.
This year's election results have generated fear, sadness, and despair.
In the days and months ahead,
our democracy may face a crisis of historic proportions.
But there is good news.
There is good news.
There is good news. Thousands of people are stepping forward in solidarity, resistance,
and resolve.
We join them.
We join them.
We join them.
In standing with the most vulnerable communities among us.
Those most likely to be targeted by new restrictions and policies.
We will tell their stories here.
Here.
Here on Free Speech TV.
We will lift their voices here.
Here on Free Speech TV.
In the difficult times ahead, know that we will be with you
24 hours a day.
Every day.
You are not alone.
You are not alone.
You are not alone.
There are millions of us.
Raising our voices and hearts together as one.
We've got your back.
We got your back.
Free Speech TV's got your back.
The revolution is in progress.
And welcome back. Let me see if this is the... I've got so many of these FDR clips on taxes. Let's see if this is the one I was looking for. Here we go. This is FDR.
Taxes, after all, are the dues that we pay for the privilege of membership in an organized society. And as society becomes more civilized, government, national and state and local, is called on to assume more obligations to its citizens. The privileges of membership in a civilized society have vastly increased in modern times. But I am afraid we have many who still do not recognize their advantages and want to avoid paying their dues.
Yeah, we definitely do. And in fact, FDR continues along those lines here.
On the one hand, there has been a vast majority of citizens who believe that the benefits of democracy should be extended and who are willing to pay their fair share to extend them. And on the other hand, there has been a small but powerful group which has fought the extension of these benefits because it did not want to pay a fair share of their costs.
Which is just boiling it down to, you know, the essential issue here, which is that FDR wanted to use tax dollars to expand things like Medicare, well, it wasn't Medicare back then, Social Security certainly, you know, unemployment insurance, things like that, and the equivalent of the Koch brothers of that day, the conservatives, the wealthy conservatives of his day, were saying, wait a minute, this is socialism. You're helping people out, and they didn't work for the money, and they didn't inherit the money. And you have to do one or the other, right? Right. FDR continues.
Taxes shall be levied according to ability to pay. That is the only American principle.
And the people loved it when he said it. I mean, you know, this should be fairly straightforward stuff, fairly easy to figure out. And, well, here he is one more time. This is Franklin Roosevelt talking about taxes.
We fought the World War, and it cost us $25 billion in 3 years to win it. We borrowed to fight that war. A Democratic administration provided sufficient taxes to pay off the entire war debt. within 10 or 15 years. Those taxes in the war days had been levied according to ability to pay. But the succeeding Republican administration did not believe in that principle, and there was a reason. They had political debt to those who sat at their elbows. To pay those political debts, they reduced the taxes of their friends in the higher bracket and left the national debt to be paid by later generations.
And that was in 1936. Franklin Roosevelt made that speech. He was talking about what happened in the Roaring '20s. And I mean, you know, when you consider it, it's really quite extraordinary how, you know, there's just the whole story of taxation and how, you know, there's almost nothing new here. I mean, it's like in 1936, Franklin Roosevelt said Republicans want to cut taxes on rich people because they owe them political debts. Now, what kind of political debts would they owe them? Well, you know, obviously the rich people helped them get elected, gave them power. Here's FDR one more time. I've got a few more clips here.
They got out from under then. They would get out from under now if their friends could get back into power and they could get back into the driver's seat. But neither you nor I think that they are going to get back.
Well, actually, they have gotten back right now. I mean, they have gotten back right now. They're essentially running the show, and that's the thing that, you know, FDR, you know, obviously didn't anticipate, and you know, we should know. I mean, here's FDR one more time on taxes. One more time, FDR.
But you would think, to hear some people talk, that those good people who live at the top of our economic pyramid are being taxed into rags and tatters. But what is the fact? The fact is that they are much further away from the poorhouse than they were in 1932. And you and I know that as a matter of personal observation.
In other words, FDR has fixed the economy to a large extent. I mean, keep in mind, this is 1936. We were arguably still in the Great Depression, but you know, a lot had resolved. And here's FDR one more time. It's just amazing to step into the Wayback Machine and discover that the exact same fight that we're having today, which is Republicans standing up for the interests of rich people and wanting to screw working people, is the exact same fight that Franklin Roosevelt was fighting in 1936. Here he is.
A number of my friends who belong in these very high upper brackets have suggested to me on several occasions of late that if I am re-elected president, they will have to move to some other nation because of high taxes here. Now, I will miss them very much.
There you go. We're all going to miss them very much. I think we should have music in my ear here. There we go. And we'll be back in just a minute. It's coming up on 28 minutes past the hour.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
Next plan. How should Democrats be responding to it? Your calls after the break. Tuesday, perfectly timed. It's the second day of our Free Speech TV Fund Drive. Our goal is for these 3 weeks for this show is $150,000 to raise that amount of money for Free Speech TV, and that's $10,000 a day for 3 weeks basically. And yesterday we hit almost $2,000. Our goal is $10,000 a day, so we're $8,000 in the hole already. It's Giving Tuesday. It's the perfect day to make a contribution. So please call Free Speech TV now and make a gift. 877-378-8669 is the telephone number, as I recall. Is that right, Nate? Yeah, that's right. Okay, thank you. And doing these things from memory. And it's, I mean, this is serious stuff. We're talking about, you know, the Republicans getting ready to really significantly alter America, to lock in Reaganomics in a way that might not change for generations. They're certainly doing that with the federal courts right now, locking in new judges after blocking Obama's appointments for the last 2 years, including to the Supreme Court. It's, I mean, these guys are completely shameless, and what they're doing needs to be exposed and discussed, although in large part there's no exposing of it in the corporate media, which is why you're here. It's why I'm here. It's, you know, we can get the message out. We can speak the truth. We can push back. We can speak back. We can speak truth to power. The big networks can't do that. If they speak truth to powerful politicians, those powerful politicians will refuse to come on their biggest shows, you know, the Sunday morning shows and things like that, and, you know, essentially punish them. And as a result of that, they end up not having a show anymore. So functionally, all these networks have become basically sycophants to the two political parties. You know, don't ask embarrassing questions of Democrats about, you know, Bill Clinton's relationship with banks, and don't ask, or whatever. And don't ask unpleasant or uncomfortable questions of Republicans, like, why do you guys keep voting to screw the average working person? Is it because, you know, the billionaires are lining your pockets? You're never going to hear that question. I might ask an occasional guess, but you're not going to hear it in the corporate media. Free speech TV is vital. This is a lifeline, this network. And without this network, our American media landscape gets a whole lot more horrible, which is one of the reasons that, you know, not only please call now and make a gift, 877-378-8669, not only that, but also please make a commitment to yourself that over the course of the next week, you're going to tell at least 3 people about Free Speech TV. If every week you told 3 people, well, it would, if everybody watching did that, it would just be huge. I mean, we would double and triple the size of this network in less than a year. You can have a significant impact. Similarly with your contribution, a $10 gift, a $20 gift, a $100 gift, you know, whatever you can afford, it means a lot. It makes a big difference. So what are the premiums with a $30 gift? We'll send you a bumper sticker for the Thom Hartmann University. It's, you know, suitable for bumpers. It's a nice bumper sticker. With the $60 gift, you get the Free Speech TV 16-month calendar plus the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker. And $60 can be $5 a month for a year, right? It's divisible by 12. $120 donation or $10 a month for a year. You get Van Jones's new book, Beyond the Messy Truth, and the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker. With a $240 contribution, you get Van Jones's book, Beyond the Messy Truth, plus Claudia Rankine's book, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Citizen. And we're going to try and get Claudia on the show to talk about, and Van Jones too, to talk about their books and why they're so cool. That's with a $240 gift. With a $360 gift, you get Beyond the Messy Truth by Van Jones, Citizen by Claudia Rankine, and Unequal Protection by me, a book about the state of our democracy. This is the book that I began, you know, the first half of the book, when I was writing it, I thought I was writing What Would Jefferson Do, because that was, you know, that was my goal. And then I hit the Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad case in 1886. It blew my mind, and I ended up, you know, finishing this book as a book about the Supreme Court. So that's Unequal Protection. That's with a $360 gift. And with a $1,000 gift, come to Portland, and Louise and I will take you to lunch. Or not always Louise, but, you know, I'll take you to lunch, certainly. I can guarantee that. And so anyhow, it's Giving Tuesday. Today is the day to make a contribution. You can do it right now by calling 877-378-8669. 877-378-8669. Please call now. This network is vital. Free Speech TV is such an important part of our media landscape. And it only exists, Free Speech TV only exists because you have helped get us this far. Please help us continue for the rest of this year and move into next year in a good position. Please, let's make up yesterday and make your contributions now. Thank you so much. 877-378-8669. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. And Reg Peg in South Carolina and Chris and all the folks who tweeted, please fix the intro music, too loud, too long. My apologies. We reset, you know, we're in a new studio and we're still working the bugs out. We reset the automation system and it reset the gain levels without our realizing it. And so if you had a hard time hearing the FDR clips, or some of them, I guess it would have just been the last one. Actually, the last one is or number 8. This was pretty cool. I'm just going to play this one more time, and then I'll pick up your phone calls. This is Franklin Roosevelt in 1936, October 21st, specifically, 1936.
A number of my friends who belong in these very high upper brackets have suggested to me on several occasions of late that if I am re-elected president, they will have to move to some other nation because of high taxes here.
As Julio was suggesting, right?
Now, I will miss them very much.
Which is essentially what I was saying.
But if they do go, they will soon come back.
Amen. Even billionaires want to live here.
Because a year or two of paying taxes in almost any other country in the world will make them yearn once more for the good old taxes of the USA.
And that's true. I mean, that's true not only, you know, in the corporate world. Of course, the Republicans are committed to dropping corporate tax rates, but they're also committed to dropping the top tax rates on wealthy individuals who own LLC corporations, who own pass-through corporations, which would be like Donald Trump has 500 pass-through corporations. So his effective tax rate is going to go from 39% down to 20% under this tax legislation, or maybe 25%. They're still working out what the pass-through rate is going to be. You know, unfortunately, smaller businesses like mine probably won't qualify. I don't know, maybe some of the bigger right-wing talk shows, because they're getting, you know, millions of dollars in donations from right-wing think tanks and things, stuff that just doesn't happen in progressive talk radio. Who knows? But it's strange times, strange times. John in Vernon Hills, Illinois. Hey, John, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom. It was really wonderful to meet with you and shake your hand in Countryside at that banquet hall. Anyway,
well, thank you, John.
I have a question. I think you said that there's nothing we can do about the new tax bill once the Democrats take over. I don't understand why not. We can't repeal or amend.
Well, I didn't say there's nothing we can do. It is a challenge, though, because if the Democrats don't take 60 votes in the Senate, the Republicans will simply use the filibuster to block them, just like they did, you know, during seven years of the Obama administration.
Can't we go nuclear?
You know, conceivably, you'd have to have a conversation with Chuck Schumer about that. But, you know, it hasn't happened in my lifetime. And although the Democrats did do that with judge positions, and now that's coming back to bite them in the butt, because now, you know, the Republicans still blocked judges for the last 2 years of the Trump administration, and now they're cranking them through like there's no tomorrow. I mean, there's really serious.
With Bill Maher, the Democrats seem to be very cowardly.
I don't think they're cowardly. It's they're out of power right now, and they're speaking out, and they're speaking out loudly. And Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi both. And John, thank you for the call. Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi both just said, you know, okay, Trump just tweeted an hour or so ago, I don't see a deal with the Democrats here. And so they said, okay, you don't want to deal with the Democrats? We're the Democrats. See you later. And so the Republicans are going to have to do this thing themselves. My point, and I made this a week or so ago, was that undoing bad legislation is a lot more difficult than stopping bad legislation from passing in the first place. And so, you know, if Ron Johnson in Wisconsin is your senator, if Susan Collins in Maine is your senator, if Jeff Flake in Arizona is your senator, if Lisa Murkowski in Alaska is your senator. They're trying to buy her vote by putting drilling in Anwar into a tax bill. Right? Mitch McConnell is trying to buy the votes of these Republican senators, and he damn well may do it. And so if you live in one of those states, I would strongly suggest that you consider calling the Senate right now and saying enough, call your senator right now, particularly if it's Collins, Murkowski, Flake, or Johnson. Give him a shout and let him know what you think. Maine in Chicago. Hey, Maine, what's up?
Yeah, how you doing, Tom? Yeah, I'm calling about what I hear you saying is like capitalism versus democracy, and how capitalism has overrode democracy really bad since the Reagan era, you know, with that trickle down and less is more. But I'm thinking that, and then we also in this country have that thing of racism and bigotry and stuff like that is really starting to come to focus since since Obama and now Trump.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that we should pick up the agenda of the 1948 Democrats, tweak it to the 2020, and have something for our candidates to stand on.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. Hell, we could adopt the 1948 Republican platform. The Republicans back then campaigned on expanding Social Security and increasing union membership. I mean, that was their shtick. The 1956 Young Republicans, flyer that is basically iconic. I mean, it's just gone viral all over the place. Same thing, the Republican Party from 1952 to 1956 under Dwight Eisenhower expanded Social Security, added more than 1 million people to the rolls of Social Security, expanded unemployment benefits, extended them for a full year, expanded union rights. Over 1 million more Americans in the last 4 years have become union members because of encouragement from the Republican Eisenhower administration. It's crazy how far we've gone. We've gone full out into libertarian, petro-billionaire crazy land. That's where we've gone. And now you've got the Kochs buying Time magazine with a little codicil in the purchase agreement that says every quarter, I believe it is, that they get to sit down with management of the magazine and discuss strategy and things. Right. Maine, thank you for the call. Bart in Blaine, Washington. Hey, Bart, what's up?
Good morning, Tom. I am so happy to talk to you.
Well, thank you, Bart. If you could take me off speakerphone, I can hardly hear you.
Professor, I wanted to mention
Bart?
You were speaking with. Yeah, are you there?
Yeah, you got to take me off speakerphone. I can't hear you.
Oh, I've got you. Actually, you're on my hands-free device. Can you hear me now?
A little better, yeah. Go for it.
Okay, there we go. I just turned the thing there. I wanted to comment on the guy that was basically plugging Reaganomics. I don't even know if he realizes he was plugging Reaganomics and why it just don't work. Because, I mean, it might have been a good idea when they first came up with it. I don't know. But I know the outcome of it was disastrous. And the reason is because they did not take into consideration the level of greed at which this top echelon of moneymakers was going to hit us. I mean, this trickle-down thing, it don't work. Money don't trickle down.
Right. Well, I believe that they knew that at the get-go. I mean, there might have been a few people who were well-intentioned. Apparently, David Stockman is one of them because, within a year or two of promoting trickle-down economics, he was out there apologizing for what he did, or with a couple of years of it.
And then something else I wanted to mention. I was having a discussion with my boss. He owns a small trucking company, and good guy to work for, great company, but we were talking about these autonomous trucks coming out. Autonomous cars are coming out. All these things that are replacing people in their jobs. And I said, it almost seems like we're going to have to figure out some way to provide a basic income to everyone in this country, because this consumer-based economy can no longer sustain this oligarchy that is going on in America. And he says, as soon as I can get autonomous trucks, that's what I'm going to do. And I says, and I understand that. He says, other people are not my problem. I said, oh, no, you're completely wrong. And he says, well, why is that? I said, because I'm a hard-working, middle-class, American tax-paying guy. But if you leave me in total destitute and you got what my family needs, I'm coming to get it.
Whoa. Well, one of the things that we've talked about quite a bit over the last few days is how will tax cuts and how will the so-called Tax Cuts and Job Act, this is the Republicans' tax cut bill, how is it going to impact over-the-road truck drivers? And this analysis was done by Per Diem Plus. Somebody on Twitter recommended this to me this morning, and it's actually pretty thoughtful. The guy takes, an average, he's got a OTR driver, Wayne. He earned $50,600 last year. Filed his tax return as single, claimed itemized deductions of $21,000, which included $14,000 net per diem, $4,000 cell phone, GPS, etc., $1,800 in state income taxes. His tax bill will increase $1,052 under the Senate plan and $1,242 under the House plan.
Oh, yeah. The way they're trying to fool people into believing this is going to help anyone in the middle class, it's absolutely preposterous. And then the last thing I'd like to see, and it kind of goes back to that caller I was talking about, the way to fix all of this, and it is the only way to fix any of this, is you back up Citizens United all the way to amending the Constitution, taking away corporate personhood, and put an end to private private campaign donations altogether.
Amen, Bart. And if you want to participate in that, go to movetoamend.org. Bart, thanks so much for the call. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archives.
Fighting the tax plan, or the Republican tax scam, let's call it what it is. How do we do it? How do we do it? And welcome back. John watching Free Speech TV in Chicago Ridge, Illinois. Hey, John, what's on your mind today?
Hey, I finally get to talk to you. I was commenting on Julio, but it's been 40 minutes since from the time I seen him.
Sure.
But you're right on with the tax plan, because it is a scam. But I think what most of those Republicans don't realize is that when you start eliminating the jobs and the wages, and no one else there is to get those wages, how are they going to pay the taxes?
Right.
You know what I mean? Because if the lower end is paying the taxes and you get rid of the jobs and you ship them overseas, there's not, like you said, that Judy person, Winnie Brooks, made that Monopoly game
right
for a reason to try to teach them a lesson. Well, I guess they never played the game to fruition because they must have made up their own rules, thinking because that's what they normally do in life, make up their own rules, and said, oh, when I run out of a bank, I'll just get another one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'll go to another board game and grab another set of another money chest.
Yeah, and that's essentially what's going on, and I think you analyzed it really well, John. John, thank you for the call. Spot on. Alex in Edison, New Jersey. Hey, Alex, what's up?
Hi, Tom. Big fan.
Thank you.
And thank you for talking about the tax bill, because frankly, myself included, most people are not going to go out and read it.
Yeah.
I'm against it. But my question for you is, I can't put two and two together here. Can you please explain why it would be so difficult for the Republicans to pass it? That is, with their majority in the White House and an empty suit in the White House. The majority in Congress.
The problem that they have, Alex, is that this tax legislation is based on a lie. It's based on the lie that if you cut taxes for rich people, that it helps working people and poor people. And that lie has been demonstrated in Kansas with Sam Brownback, and it was demonstrated in the United States with both George W. Bush and with Ronald Reagan. Every single, those three examples of massive tax cuts for the rich people that never materialized anything for working people, and in fact did the exact opposite. In every single one of those cases, cutting taxes on rich people ended up screwing working people by allowing rich people to extract more money out of the economy and put it in their Swiss bank accounts, and thus, Less demand in the economy, less growth in the economy. So they're having to lie to us, and that's why they're struggling so hard. They know that they're lying to us.
Is what you're saying is that there are a few principled Republican senators out there who realize that?
I'm saying there's virtually none. I mean, maybe Susan Collins. I'd have to, review her voting over the last year or two. Susan Collins has been one of the few who has, from time to time, stood up to insanity in the Republican Party. But I can't think of another Republican senator, or for that matter, a Republican member of the House, who is operating with any level of what I think you or I would call integrity. Can you?
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you, Alex. Thanks for the call. I mean, this is a real conundrum for these guys because they very much want to pay off the political debts that they have. They, as Franklin Roosevelt said, they owe their donor class. They owe considerable. And, how do we pay them back? We cut their taxes. I mean, it's basically all they can do. But in order to do that, they've got to harm all the rest of us. They've got to hurt 99% of America to pay off the donor class that made them senators and representatives. We'll be back. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. And Stefan, listening to SiriusXM in San Diego. Hey, Stefan, what's up?
Hey, thanks for taking my call. I hate to beat a dead horse, but going back to Jose's call, there's two responses to this. One of them you brought up, Kansas. And Democrats are not bringing this up enough. We need to beat this into the ground.
Yep.
Kansas did drop taxes to zero, and their economy is in shambles.
Yep. And they didn't actually even take them to zero. They just cut them radically.
Oh, close enough. Yeah, very close. But on a broader note, to say that companies need a tax break before they're going to hire people is to say that they simply need more money. You're saying companies need more money to hire people. Well, they've been making more money, more and more. They are at record levels of profit. Where are the jobs?
Yep.
It's just so blindingly simple. I don't understand the
that was my point to the last caller, is that the entire, his question was, why are the Republicans struggling to pass this? They control the House, the Senate, and the White House. I mean, this should be, brain dead, no problem, right? But they're struggling to pass it because it is based on lies. And not all these guys are that accomplished as liars, although most of them are pretty good at it. That's what you've got to do to get elected as a Republican, is lie through your teeth.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Jose mentioned, one quick thing. Jose mentioned Econ 101, and I found that laughable. If a company will hire more people when the demand for its product exceeds its ability to create it.
That's correct.
They are not going to hire more people simply because you give them more money.
Right.
That's an expense on their ledger. Employment is the biggest expense on their ledger.
And not only that,
add another expense.
Not only that, from a business point of view, that is stupid, right? I mean, it's insane because for example, back one of my first businesses. This was back in the early '70s. We owned a company that made herbal teas. It was called the Woodley Herber Company, and herbal teas and potpourris and stuff like that. And we were trying to compete with Celestial Seasonings. Mo Siegel was the CEO of Celestial Seasonings, and he basically ate our lunch. I mean, it was like one of the companies that I've owned in my life that did really well for a couple of years. We were up to 18 employees. We were shipping lots and lots of stuff, and then we just basically got wiped out by Celestial Seasonings. But the reality is that in the middle, there was about a 3-year period there from 73 until 77 thereabouts, 4-year period, where we were making a lot of money and we were selling a lot of herbs. And when the market started to turn, when the market started to change, we saw basically Celestial Seasonings marketing and product placement in stores getting better and better and getting, and basically wiping us out. And we saw our market share declining. Now, if somebody had been giving me free money, I wouldn't have made the hard business decisions of saying, okay, we need to cut back on what we're producing here because we're exceeding demand. Or we need I wouldn't have made or maybe I would have made the decision to, hey, let's do even more of this because it's not working, right? Because we're getting free money. I mean, you don't want to incentivize business to hire people just to hire people. It's like that's what you're doing then. If you're giving businesses money and saying, here's $100,000, hire a couple of people. What are you doing? You're causing that business to expand when there's no need for its expansion, which is putting that business at risk.
They didn't do that, but that's great for a hypothetical. But in the real world, in the case of Kansas, we know what happened. We talked to the business owners.
Yes.
They took that money and pocketed it, and in fact, most of them went on vacation. So not only did Kansas lose out on the money, but the people who got the tax breaks took that money out of the state, so they lost even further.
Yep.
It's just such it's difficult.
Yeah, no, it's the whole thing is worthy of Lewis Carroll. It's it's Alice through the Looking Glass all over again. Stefan, very well said. Thanks for the call.
My call.
Yeah, my pleasure. Dave in Federal Way, Washington. Hey, Dave, what's up?
Hey, Tom, not too much. Hey, I was listening to another show on the Progressive Channel, and a caller called in and identified himself as a Trump supporter, and he said something very interesting to me, and I just wanted to run it by you. He said that it would be way worse if Hillary Clinton was elected because Hillary Clinton is a proven liar. Well, the host said, wait a minute, Donald Trump is a serial liar. It has been proven. Now, here's what he said that's interesting. I want to get your take on it. He said, the Trump supporter said, that Donald Trump is a...
Dave, you just vanished. Okay. I got no Dave. Let's see here. Steve, is it Steven or Stefan in Las Vegas, Nevada?
Stefan.
Stefan. Hey, Stefan. Wow, that's interesting. 2 Stefans in a row. What's up? Good. How are you?
Yeah. I'm doing all right, man. It's my first-time caller, man. I love listening to your show.
Thank you.
But I wanted to respond to that guy who was basically backing up the millionaires and billionaires. And you asked him a simple question. You asked him, why do Republicans always side with the billionaires? And I think it's a couple of different things. I think, number one, I think that they feel that with just the right amount of loyalty to the Republican Party, that one day, just one day, they might be able to become a part of that 1%.
Right.
And
yeah, what happens when I win the lottery? Yeah.
Exactly. And also, it's like, they're telling you, look, if I was in the same position, I would do the same thing. So they're telling you that as well. And I think they just feel also that they are not like the rest of us. They don't need any help. They don't want any handouts. But, I was thinking something the other day, and it's funny, like, let's just put it like this. Whenever a Republican is in office as president, Democrats say, I hate this president. I can't stand him. They get no benefits from that president. And most of us would all agree with that. But whenever a Democrat is in office, all the Republicans get to say is, I hate this president, but yet and still they get all of the benefits that everyone else is getting. And so they still win. It's like, if you're not a part of that 1%, you have no business being a Republican.
Yeah. No, and the Republican Party is, they swore their loyalty to the 1% way back around the turn of the 20th century. And, for the 120 years, more or less, since then, there was a little blip of progressive Republicans, Teddy Roosevelt and whatnot, and, right after 1900. But that was the dying gasp of the progressive movement in the Republican Party. Stefan, thank you for the call. Very, very well said. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
The Thom Hartmann Program is brought to you in part by the Aiden Forecast, an investment newsletter with weekly updates of leading market indicators and a monthly deep dive into what the details of the economy and the markets mean for investors and retirees. On the web at aidenmarkets.com.
Wines have some of the highest pesticide levels in our food chain. This hour brought to you by ecowine.com. Pesticide-free wines, organic wines, imported from France by the Organic Wine Company, ecowine.com.
Hartmann Program is brought to you in part by Super Beets. Super Beets are sourced from non-GMO beets, and they're packed with dietary nitrates, helping to produce nitric oxide for more energy, stamina, and support for healthy blood pressure levels naturally. For more information, call 800-223-8242
or visit tomsbeets.com.
I'm Nina Turner, and you're watching Free Speech TV.
Giving Tuesday, perfectly timed. It's the second day of our Free Speech TV Fund Drive. Our goal is for these 3 weeks, for this show, is $150,000 to raise that amount of money for Free Speech TV. And that's $10,000 a day for 3 weeks, basically. And yesterday, we hit almost $2,000. Our goal is $10,000 a day. So we're $8,000 in the hole already. It's Giving Tuesday. It's the perfect day to make a contribution. So please call Free Speech TV now and make a gift. 877-378-8669 is the telephone number, as I recall. Is that right, Nate? Yeah, that's right. Okay, thank you. And doing these things from memory. And it's, I mean, this is serious stuff. We're talking about, you know, the Republicans getting ready to really significantly alter America, to lock in Reaganomics in a way that might not change for generations. They're certainly doing that with the federal courts right now, locking in new judges after blocking Obama's appointments for the last 2 years, including to the Supreme Court. It's, I mean, these guys are completely shameless. And what they're doing needs to be exposed and discussed, although in large part there's no exposing of it in the corporate media, which is why you're here. It's why I'm here. It's, you know, we can get the message out. We can speak the truth. We can push back. We can speak back. We can speak truth to power. The big networks can't do that. If they speak truth to powerful politicians, those powerful politicians will refuse to come on their biggest shows, you know, the Sunday morning shows and things like that, and, you know, essentially punish them. And as a result of that, they end up not having a show anymore. So functionally, all these networks have become basically sycophants to the two political parties. You know, don't ask embarrassing questions of Democrats about, you know, Bill Clinton's relationship with banks, and don't ask, or whatever. And don't ask unpleasant or uncomfortable questions of Republicans, like, why do you guys keep voting to screw the average working person? Is it because, you know, the billionaires are lining your pockets? You're never going to hear that question. I might ask an occasional guest, but you're not going to hear it in the corporate media. Free Speech TV is vital. This is a lifeline, this network. And without this network, our American media landscape gets a whole lot more horrible, which is one of the reasons that, you know, not only please call now and make a gift, 877-378-8669, not only that, but also please make a commitment to yourself that over the course of the next week, you're going to tell at least 3 people about Free Speech TV. If every week you told 3 people, well, it would, if everybody watching did that, it would just be huge. I mean, we would double and triple the size of this network in less than a year. You can have a significant impact. Similarly with your contribution, a $10 gift, a $20 gift, a $100 gift, you know, whatever you can afford, it means a lot. It makes a big difference. So what are the premiums with a $30 gift? We'll send you a bumper sticker for the Thom Hartmann University. It's, you know, suitable for bumpers. It's a nice bumper sticker. With the $60 gift, you get the Free Speech TV 16-month calendar plus the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker. And $60 can be $5 a month for a year, right? It's divisible by 12. $120 donation or $10 a month for a year. You get Van Jones's new book, Beyond the Messy Truth, and the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker. With a $240 contribution, you get Van Jones's book, Beyond the Messy Truth, plus Claudia Rankine's book, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Citizen. And we're going to try and get Claudia on the show to talk about, and Van Jones too, to talk about their books and why they're so cool. That's with a $240 gift. With a $360 gift, you get Beyond the Messy Truth by Van Jones, Citizen by Claudia Rankine, and Unequal Protection by me, a book about the state of our democracy. This is the book that I began, the first half of the book, when I was writing it, I thought I was writing What Would Jefferson Do, because that was, that was my goal. And then I hit the Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad case in 1886. It blew my mind, and I ended up, finishing this book as a book about the Supreme Court. So that's Unequal Protection. That's with a $360 gift. And with a $1,000 gift, come to Portland, and Louise and I will take you to lunch. Or not always Louise, but I'll take you to lunch, certainly. I can guarantee that. And so anyhow, it's Giving Tuesday. Today is the day to make a contribution. You can do it right now by calling 877-378-8669. 877-378-8669. Please call now. This network is vital. Free Speech TV is such an important part of our media landscape. And it only exists, Free Speech TV only exists because you have helped get us this far. Please help us continue for the rest of this year and move into next year in a good position. Please, let's make up yesterday and make your contributions now. Thank you so much. 877-378-8669.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Well, some interesting events going on out there. The Koch brothers put up the money, apparently over $600 million, to fund the purchase of Time magazine by Meredith Corporation, an investment group. And there's a funny little clause in there, according to Think Progress, that says that the Kochs get to review the operations of Time magazine every quarter, I believe it is. Charles Alexander is on the line with us. He is, at the moment, a contributor to The Nation magazine, thenation.com, and of course you can tweet at The Nation. But most importantly, he was the international editor at Time magazine. Before that, he was the science editor at Time magazine, the business editor at Time magazine, and a reporter and writer for Time magazine. Charles Alexander, welcome to the program, Charles.
Thanks, Tom. It's great to be here.
Thanks for joining us. So tell us what about Time magazine would be lost if it was purchased or controlled, run to the benefit of a couple of petrobillionaires?
Well, what I'm most concerned about is the fact that for 30 years, Time has been warning about the dangers of climate change. We had a Planet of the Year cover 30 years ago. We had the Earth as a fried egg and a skillet on the cover much more recently. So we've been trying to warn people about this, and at the same time, the Koch brothers and other petro kingpins have been financing a campaign of disinformation to convince everybody that global warming is no big deal. So the thought that the Kochs would have some influence over Time, and suddenly Time would say, well, no, wait a minute, never mind, it's not a big deal, all those covers we did, forget it, climate change is no big deal. That would be the biggest tragedy for me personally, because I edited all those covers over the years.
Wow. We're talking with Charles Alexander, former international editor at Time magazine, right now a contributor with The Nation magazine. Charles, looking at this from a political point of view, I can understand where you and I and other people who are not right-wing libertarian crazies. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. Even the middle in America would not agree with the positions that, for example, David Koch ran for president on in 1980. You know, eliminate Social Security, eliminate public education. You know, basically just shock the entire country. But the politics. I mean, we can sit around and bemoan the politics all day long. This is perfectly legal. And I'm wondering, how do we solve the problem of a political cancer in our system? I mean, you've got, for example, Donald Trump. The Washington Post has been keeping track. He lies on average 5.5 times a day in public to all of us. It's going to be 2,000 lies by the end of his first year. Major lies. Right. We're not talking, small things like, that was a nice dress or something. I mean, we're talking major lies, right? And he was backed by the billionaire Mercer family. And now you've got this lie that climate change is unconsequential. That is being backed by the Kochs and by ExxonMobil, has been over the years. Their funding of groups like, Heartland Institute and whatnot to promote global warming denialism. How do we, as a society, how does America as a country, particularly keeping in mind the very strict injunctions of the First Amendment, how do we police our media in a way that requires a certain level of honesty? I mean, the Fairness Doctrine back in the day required radio and television stations to program in the public interest. And that was determined by the public. They could complain, and every station had to keep a public file. And that public file was reviewed every 2 years when their license renewal was up. Now that's been expanded to 5 years. The license renewal isn't contingent so much on the public file. What's his name? Reagan blew up the Fairness Doctrine. And that, I think, had bled over into print media, saying, hey, here are the standards, the journalistic standards. Because you could argue that back at the turn of the 19th to the 20th centuries, in the 1890s, you had William Randolph Hearst saying to Frederick Remington, just get me the picture, or the illustration of the USS Maine or the war in Cuba, and I'll give you the war. And that led to the Spanish-American War. How do we do this? How do we make sure that our media is actually telling us the truth? Or is that even not, a value that we should be enforcing at law?
Well, it has to be, Tom, and, I have no simple answer for you. I mean, the biggest problem is that now with the addition of the Internet, everyone has their own media. I mean, we're talking, and progressive people are listening to us, but the people that need to be listening to us are listening to something else altogether. So we all have our own media, we're all talking to ourselves, and so it's not a simple problem. I hope that Trump what he's doing is so outrageous, and what Fox News puts on the air is so outrageous that it will eventually just totally discredit itself. I mean, we have a president who's been colluding with the Russians. Conservatives used to think that communism and Russians were bad. And now we have a conservative president who's colluded with them. So maybe that will be so outrageous that it's going to discredit all this business.
Well, I think this raises a good and important question, Charles. We're talking with Charles Alexander, the former editor of Time magazine. Right now writes for thenation.com. And my dad considered himself a conservative. He joined the Army at the tail end of World War II, was part of the occupation of Japan after the war. And he was a Dwight Eisenhower Republican, and he called himself a conservative. And he could tell you what conservative values were. I don't see any of those values being played out in modern day conservatives. My dad has passed away, within the last decade. But I have to think that, the Republicans, he would have been in his 80s now, that Republicans of that age, Republicans who have actually, who actually remember Dwight Eisenhower, even Richard Nixon for that matter, the reasonable things Nixon did, have to be just shocked at the way that the word conservative has been turned into a handle to describe basically rolling over and playing dead for, or even actively campaigning for, the interests of transnational corporations and billionaires.
I know.
What's conservative about
like
that?
The only conservative value left is more money for rich people. The rich get richer and the poor get poorer. That seems to be the only thing. I mean, this tax bill that Congress is considering now is a total travesty.
Yeah.
It raises, it's going to eventually raise taxes on the middle and working classes and give a huge tax benefit to all the wealthy. I mean, over $1 billion to the Trump family alone. When Donald Trump passes on, his kids will get a huge break. So this seems to be all that's left of conservatism. But I know that there are some sincere conservatives, like your father was, who are just stunned by all this. So that's what I'm saying. I hope it becomes so outrageous that the pendulum will swing the other way. I hope that this is the last gasp of white supremacy
and patriarchy.
But you know, it's scary when you have the big corporate money behind it. When corporate interests take over a company like Time Inc. that was founded with journalistic integrity.
Yeah, this is a problem. Charles, we're out of time, but thanks so much for being with us today.
I really appreciate the opportunity, Tom.
Thank you, Charles.
Nice talking to you.
It's been great talking with you, too. Hang on just a second.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Charles Alexander, he's a contributor to The Nation magazine now, formerly the editor of Time magazine, thenation.com. We'll be right back. And welcome back, Greg in Spokane, Washington. Hey, Greg, what's on your mind today? Greg?
Kind of when you're talking to people about getting how the right uses messaging to confuse people, I think it's kind of important to realize that the topic never seems to come up about the use of religion and utilizing algorithms to kind of Edward Bernays the population, you know?
Yep.
Confuse people, the people that are willing not to look at deeper issues. It's easy to confuse them because they're single-issue voters, so they're easy to spot. But boy, if anybody brings up religion, it's like pointing out clinging to their Bibles and their guns. It's like you're dead.
Yeah. Yeah, that didn't work out all that well for President Obama. Although he did get elected.
At some point, we need to pick that up if we're ever going to actually talk to people. I mean, when I talk to my right-wing friends, they're great people. They're just excellent people, but they're blinded by religion.
Yeah. It's a real testimonial.
It's a sad thing. And then the other thing I just was hoping you could talk to a lot more is about ranked choice voting.
Yeah.
Because it seems like maybe with all these different messages out there different messengers that our old system of voting for the lesser of two evils is being used against everybody. I mean, I know there's problems with ranked choice voting, but it seems like it's something that needs to be explored. I started speaking to friends of mine in Spokane about this about 9 years ago, and they said, "Oh, it'll take forever to get that passed." And well, how long?
It will because
over 8 years. Well, I'm thinking, let's get something started here and a conversation. And I don't, I just was hoping you would talk to that.
Yeah. The problem with ranked choice voting, Russell, and Greg, and I completely agree with you. I'm a big fan of ranked choice voting, sometimes called instant runoff voting, IRV. They call it ranked choice in Australia and New Zealand, where they use it, and they use it very successfully, and it allows them to have multiple political parties at the same time that they have first past the post winner-take-all elections, which is what we have. We're stuck with that because we don't have a parliamentary system. We don't have proportional representation. And neither does Australia or New Zealand, and it works for them. But the problem is that both the Republican and the Democratic parties are strongly opposed to ranked choice voting. So getting it through any kind of a legislative process when both political parties oppose it is going to be a real challenge. This is the sort of thing that might happen if you had a massive Great Depression type crash and Americans were in the mood to completely reboot the system. And we need to keep talking about this because that day will come. And a reformer, whether it's a Bernie Sanders type character or even Bernie himself or somebody just very much like that, a reformer will come along and say, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to learn the lessons from the past and we're going to go forward. And ranked choice voting, to the extent that that's learning a lesson from the past, it's learning a lesson from looking at every other country on earth. And it's something that will help enhance democracy. You're spot on right, Greg. Greg, I got to run. Thank you for the call. We'll be right back.
I'm Valerie with Free Speech TV. We're proud to provide you with independent, unfiltered news and documentaries. And as our valued viewer, you can help us continue bringing Free Speech TV well into the future. Join our Pearly Gate Rebels, our planned giving program. Your gift of any size will help ensure democracy endures through an informed citizenry. You can donate property, money, or assets. It's easy. My spouse and I are proud Pearly Gate Rebels. We're doing our part to ensure that Free Speech TV will be here to deliver thought-provoking news and information well into the future. Join us. Call 877-378-8669 or email me at valerie@freespeech.org. Rebel against media owned by billionaires and become one of our Pearly Gate Rebels today.
Thom Hartmann here with you, and, well, there I am. And John in Chicago. Hey, John, what's on your mind today?
Good afternoon. I was just thinking.
Hey, John.
Yeah, conservative meaning like conservative with money, conservative with resources, conservative with protecting the environment. I think it's specifically conservative with oil. Who knows what kind of polymer science will require virgin oil 200 years from now. And I'm like, why don't we just save that last 5% of oil in the ground for future needs? Isn't that conservative?
It's more like 50%.
Crazy, right?
It's more like 50%, and we do have to start keeping it in the ground. If we pumped out all the oil that's in the ground right now and all the coal and all the natural gas, it would produce a 6 to 8 degree increase in temperature. We would be in the middle of the Permian mass extinction. Everything bigger than a dog would be dead.
For fuel, I'm saying like we save it for like whatever plastic polymers we need for micro, whatever, medicine, whatever. 100 years from now, who knows what we'll need? We're going to burn all of it in a crazy internal combustion engine, right?
Yeah, which is.
I think we should save everything for the future.
There you go, and that is a true conservative position. Is let's conserve. Let's step by step.
For our grandchildren, right? And then after that, you get into everything, like financial,
but John, there are no conservatives of my dad's ilk. The Republicans now have become total shills to the billionaire class and the transnational corporations. And it's the only way to get elected as a Republican. It's the only way to get anything done as a Republican. I mean, look at this fight with Mick Mulvaney trying to take over the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Why would he do that? Because the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau has recovered more than $13 billion that big banks have stolen from people like you and me over the years, John, and has returned that to the people who they stole it from. Mick Mulvaney went in yesterday and ordered that all payments to people of money that had been stolen from them by big banks be frozen, be stopped. and that there be an absolute hiring freeze at the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. So, I mean, this is the Trump administration trying to make life easier. You know, they're trying to comfort the comfortable and afflict the afflicted. And it's bizarre. John, I got to move along, but thank you for the call. Mark in San Diego. Hey, Mark, what's up?
Hey, Tom. I called because I was listening to your conversation at the beginning of the show with, I guess his name is Julio.
Yeah,
Jose.
Julio Rivera. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. He exhibits a common trait among all these right-wing ideologues who, when they get in a conversation, whether it be on the air or personal, they love to talk over you.
Right.
I've seen it on CNN, MSNBC, Fox. When they get it, they won't let the other person get a word in edgewise, and that's exactly what he tried to do to you. He just kept on talking over you. It's just astonishing, really, that they have that same common trait, no matter who it is.
It's called
really
Mark,
even more astonishing.
Mark, if I may, before you continue with that thought, just to put a bow on this. The problem, and I've noticed this, and when I used to do the TV show on RT, I have conservatives in the studio sitting right next to me, and off the air I would talk with them, and invariably when it was a conservative who thought that they could filibuster, that the way to win an argument was to filibuster me, to just talk over me and talk over me and talk over me. When we get off the air, I would always say, you must watch a lot of Fox News, and they would always say yes. And what they do, as far as I can tell, and I might be wrong on this, but I don't believe so, what they do over at Fox News is when two people start talking over each other, the liberal gets potted down, his volume goes down, and the conservative keeps talking. And so the viewers are hearing the conservative message whenever that filibustering happens, no matter what, because they control the volume. They don't control the volume like that at RT. They don't do it at CNN. They don't do it at MSNBC. They don't do it at Agence France Presse or BBC. As far as I can tell, Fox is the only network that does that. And I'm not certain that they do it all the time or even that they do it commonly, but they do it enough that these people who go on Fox or who watch a lot of Fox think that that's the way to win an argument in the media, is to filibuster the other guy. And I just, in the last couple of months, Sean and I had the long conversation about this and said, okay, if somebody is just intentionally filibustering me and I'm going to try and shut it down, pot them down. What's good for Fox News, I guess, is what we'll do. But it's a sad commentary, Mark.
Well, you held your own on that because you talked over him too, so that was great. I mean, you gave back as good as you got. But anyway, more to the point, it's amazing to me, and I don't know Julio, I'm betting that he's not one of the top 1%. It's amazing how they get these people, and even friends of mine who are in the lower economic scale, to carry water for these big corporations. It's just mind-boggling. They just firmly believe, I guess, in this trickle down, which has been proven to be false in all the laboratories we've used the last 40 years. But can I tell you something real quick, a microcosm, and then I'll get off the air? I'm a full-time Uber driver. I'm semi-retired. And I'll tell you what, when I take these pick them up at the airport, rich businessmen or whatever, take them to their gated mansions in the hills, and I carry their big suitcases and do whatever I can for them, they never tip me one penny. And I pick up a Latina woman, take her to her minimum wage job at a fast food restaurant. I don't do anything out of the ordinary for her. She pulls out $3 and tips me.
Yeah.
That right there in a microcosm is all you need to know about trickle-down economics.
Well, and there's a huge body of science showing that the wealthier a person is, the less empathy they have, the less understanding of other people's states do they have. Mark, thank you for the call. Thanks for listening to SiriusXM. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
Back with more right after this break. Back with your calls. Giving Tuesday, perfectly timed. It's the second day of our Free Speech TV Fund Drive. Our goal is for these 3 weeks, for this show, is $150,000 to raise that amount of money for Free Speech TV. And that's $10,000 a day for 3 weeks, basically. And yesterday we hit almost $2,000. Our goal is $10,000 a day. So we're $8,000 in the hole already. It's Giving Tuesday. It's the perfect day to make a contribution. So please call Free Speech TV now and make a gift. 877-378-8669 is the telephone number, as I recall. Is that right, Nate? Yeah, that's right. Okay, thank you. And doing these things from memory. And it's, I mean, this is serious stuff. We're talking about, you know, the Republicans getting ready to really significantly alter America, to lock in Reaganomics in a way that might not change for generations. They're certainly doing that with the federal courts right now, locking in new judges after blocking Obama's appointments for the last 2 years, including to the Supreme Court. It's, I mean, these guys are completely shameless, and what they're doing needs to be exposed and discussed, although in large part there's no exposing of it in the corporate media, which is why you're here. It's why I'm here. It's, you know, we can get the message out. We can speak the truth. We can push back. We can speak back. We can speak truth to power. The big networks can't do that. If they speak truth to powerful politicians, those powerful politicians will refuse to come on their biggest shows, you know, the Sunday morning shows and things like that, and, you know, essentially punish them. And as a result of that, they end up not having a show anymore. So functionally, all these networks have become basically sycophants to the two political parties. You know, don't ask embarrassing questions of Democrats about, you know, Bill Clinton's relationship with banks, and don't ask, or whatever, and don't ask unpleasant or uncomfortable questions of Republicans like, why do you guys keep voting to screw the average working person? Is it because, you know, the billionaires are lining your pockets? You're never going to hear that question. I might ask an occasional guest, but you're not going to hear it in the corporate media. Free Speech TV is vital. This is a lifeline, this network. And without this network, our American media landscape gets a whole lot more horrible. Which is one of the reasons that, you know, not only please call now and make a gift, 877-378-8669, not only that, but also please make a commitment to yourself that over the course of the next week, you're going to tell at least 3 people about Free Speech TV. If every week you told 3 people, well, it would, if everybody watching did that, it would just be huge. I mean, we would double and triple the size of this network in less than a year. You can have a significant impact. Similarly with your contribution, a $10 gift, a $20 gift, a $100 gift, you know, whatever you can afford, it means a lot. It makes a big difference. So what are the premiums with a $30 gift? We'll send you a bumper sticker for the Thom Hartmann University. It's, you know, suitable for bumpers. It's a nice bumper sticker. With the $60 gift, you get the Free Speech TV 16-month calendar plus the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker. And $60 can be $5 a month for a year, right? It's divisible by 12. $120 donation or $10 a month for a year. You get Van Jones's new book, Beyond the Messy Truth, and the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker. With a $240 contribution, you get Van Jones's book, Beyond the Messy Truth, plus Claudia Rankine's book, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Citizen. And we're going to try and get Claudia on the show to talk about, and Van Jones too, to talk about their books and why they're so cool. That's with a $240 gift. With a $360 gift, you get Beyond the Messy Truth by Van Jones, Citizen by Claudia Rankine, and Unequal Protection by me, a book about the state of our democracy. This is the book that I began, you know, the first half of the book, when I was writing it, I thought I was writing What Would Jefferson Do, because that was, you know, that was my goal. And then I hit the Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad case in 1886. It blew my mind, and I ended up, you know, finishing this book as a book about the Supreme Court. So that's Unequal Protection. That's a $360 gift. And with a $1,000 gift, come to Portland, and Louise and I will take you to lunch. Or not always Louise, but, you know, I'll take you to lunch, certainly. I can guarantee that. And so anyhow, it's Giving Tuesday. Today is the day to make a contribution. You can do it right now by calling 877-378-8669. 877-378-8669. please call now. This network is vital. Free Speech TV is such an important part of our media landscape. And it only exists, Free Speech TV only exists because you have helped get us this far. Please help us continue for the rest of this year and move into next year in a good position. Please, let's make up yesterday and make your contributions now. Thank you so much. 877-378-8669. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. The U.S. Supreme Court yesterday said no to the NRA. This is very interesting. I'm wondering if SCOTUS is eventually going to revisit Heller. Heller is the decision that broke with 200 years of American jurisprudence and said, yeah, we discovered that the Second Amendment actually contains embedded in it the individual right to own and bear arms, and that you have a right to own a gun as opposed to a privilege. And this very strange, because in 2013, after the Newtown school massacre, the state of Maryland passed an assault weapons ban. They banned, quote, assault long guns, which is things like the AR-15, the AK-47. They banned large capacity magazines. Some owners of those kinds of guns, or the NRA, or who knows who funded this thing, sued the state of Maryland and took it to the Supreme Court. I would guess, fully expecting the Supreme Court will say, hey, you know, you got a right to own an assault weapon. And the Supreme Court said, we're standing with Maryland. We're not going to even hear this case. That is pretty amazing. The Republicans, with regard to this so-called tax, well, this tax scam, this so-called tax cut, well, it is a tax cut for, you know, for about 1% of us. They're, according to Victoria's newsletter, Senate Republicans are considering a trigger that would automatically increase taxes if their sweeping legislation fails to generate as much revenue as they expect. I'm wondering if they're having to do that to follow the Byrd rule. Steve Daines, the senator from Montana, and Ron Johnson, the senator from Wisconsin, are arguing completely different and opposite positions. Ron Johnson wants more money to be given to wealthy people who own pass-through corporations. I'm assuming that Ron Johnson's getting a lot of money from, you know, very, very wealthy people who own pass-through corporations. Steve Daines, on the other hand, is concerned that too much money going to pass-through organizations is not a good thing. So, but Daines wants big corporations to be helped out. See, the pass-throughs, I mean, they'll help, you know, big owners of, you know, some of the largest companies in America are actually pass-through companies because they're privately held. And they organize them so that, you know, they can pass through these benefits to the individual owners because they're not publicly traded companies. They can do that. So also, you know, they're talking about allowing energy exploration in ANWR, the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge, in order to get Lisa Murkowski's vote. Trump yesterday trashed Native Americans, calling the senator from Massachusetts Pocahontas, as he was standing in front of a painting of President Andrew Jackson, who was known as Indian Killer Jackson, while he is supposedly honoring several Navajo code talkers from World War II. Andrew Jackson, of course, signed the Indian Removal Act of 1830 and ordered the Trail of Tears and took the Indians and Cherokee in particular, but there were a number of other tribes involved, out of Georgia and had them walk all the way to Oklahoma. Thousands died along the path, thus the name Trail of Tears. The Alliance of Colonial Tribes tweeted, American Indian names, whether they be historic or contemporary, are not meant to be used as insults. To do so is to reduce them to racial slurs, which is exactly what Trump did yesterday. And it turns out Trump has faked his own heritage, right? He's yelling that Elizabeth Warren claimed, and apparently did early on in her academic career, that she had some Native American blood. This is what her mother had told her growing up. She'd heard the story throughout her life. Apparently doesn't have a genealogy to actually prove that. It's just what she heard. Well, here, Trump, shortly after World War II, Trump's father, Fred, falsely claimed that their family was Swedish, to hide their German heritage to avoid problems selling apartments to Jewish customers, according to the Boston Globe last year. Trump was still claiming Swedish heritage in his 1987 book, The Art of the Deal, in which he writes that his grandfather came to the U.S. from Sweden. No, he came here from Germany. It was Mr. Drumpf. And he changed his name to Trump. So, and Victoria Jones notes, okay, here's this guy criticizing Elizabeth Warren for, quote, changing her ancestry. He himself changed his ancestry in his own book. And then he trashes the Native American Marines, Code Talker Marines. And he's a guy who received 5 deferments and never served in the military. Amazing. Barney Frank says that, who is the co-author of Dodd-Frank, says that Mrs. English should be the new head of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, that they set it up specifically to not have the president appoint he appoints the head, but the number 2 position, it was an automatic rollover from within the agency in order to insulate the agency from political influence. It was not an accident. It was very intentional. So, we'll see. We'll see where all this goes. Anyhow, to your phone calls, Linda in Matlock, Washington. Hey, Linda, what's on your mind today?
Hello, Tom. I'd like to tie in your conversation with Julio at the start and with FDR's commentary on political debts and the fact that he had said that several of his friends who were wealthy were going to be moving should he be reelected in 36. Right. I think you really pulled back the curtain on Julio when you said, when he was threatening that, if the billionaires don't get what they want, they're going to stomp their feet and they're going to all make a mass exodus out of America and we will be left flat. And when you said, yes, go, it would be a good thing, just leave the country. That is like their ultimate bluff, because they've got us talked into the idea that these are people that need to be worshipped, coddled, given special interest, given enormous amounts of wealth. So basically we should say, and I know that you're a person of the Vietnam era, so am I, remember the old line, America, love it or leave it.
Right.
And I say that to the billionaire class. If you don't want to pay your fair share, because they use our judicial system, they use our financial system, they would not leave. They are way too smart for that, and when it comes to repatriating money, their accountants and lawyers knew exactly what they were doing. They were just waiting and biding their time.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'm sorry, Linda. Just for if I may, and I'll come right back to you in just a second, but for people who may have just tuned in, it was an hour and a half ago I played these clips, and typically in that period of time, the audience of a radio show will almost completely turn over. So let me just play the clip that you're talking about so people will know what it is you're talking about. And this is Franklin Roosevelt, October 21st, 1936. I believe he was in Madison Square Garden when he gave this speech in New York City. And here he is talking about taxes and the Republicans.
A number of my friends who belong in the very high upper brackets have suggested to me on several occasions of late that if I am reelected president, they will have to move to some other nation because of high taxes here. Now, I will miss them very much. But if they do go, they will soon come back.
Yeah, and of course they will. And then he also talked about the political debt. I think this is the right clip, Linda. Here
we increase more steeply the taxes paid by individuals.
No, that's maybe this
is it. But you would think, to hear some people talk, that those good people who live at the top of our economic pyramid are being taxed into rags and tatters. But what is the fact? The fact is that they are much further away from the poorhouse than they were in 1932. And you and I know that as a matter of personal observation.
Oh, there we go. And then there's just one more. I think this is the one.
They got out from under then. They would get out from under now if their friends could get back into power and they could get back into the driver's seat. But neither you nor I think that they are going to get back.
Well, but they are now. Back to you, Linda.
Yeah, it just seems like we have, ever since Reagan, it seems like we've had such a worship of people that have immense wealth. It's like everybody in a trailer is just a displaced millionaire. But what they don't realize is that they are going to crash it again. And of course, your book is very succinct on the role of the Powell memo and the historical ramifications of that. I want to make a just quick thing on the military-industrial complex.
Mm-hmm.
During World War II, the Ford Motor Company and many other companies that manufactured in America of large durable goods, they retooled. For a war effort, they retooled. And then when we went to peacetime, they retooled back into automobiles. You could not buy a regular car in the 1940s early on because of the war effort.
Right.
I say to Raytheon and the big five military-industrial complex companies, such as Raytheon, General Electric, Boeing, and all of these other people that make bombs, retool for a 21st century economy with green, solar, and wind turbine technology.
Yeah, these were all consumer products companies, and now they're military-industrial.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a good thing. Linda, excellent point. Excellent point. Thank you for the call, and thank you for making it. Rita in Minneapolis. Hey, Rita, what's up?
Hi, Tom. I was calling with some points about the Republican tax bill.
Rita, I missed my cue here. My apologies. I'm going to put you on hold and get your comments after the break here because it wouldn't be fair to you to give you 15 seconds. And I believe I'm going to hit a break right now. There it goes. So we're talking about, there's a lot in the news today, but the Republican tax scam is at the top. Donald Trump today tweeted that they don't need the Democrats. They don't want to have anything to do with the Democrats. So Pelosi and Schumer said, okay, you guys have fun. See you later. And the tax scam continues to roll on. We'll be back with more of your calls after this.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archives.
Your calls. We're going to check in with Talk Media News here in a few minutes, too. Stick around. And welcome back. Howard in Detroit, Michigan. Hey, Howard. Thanks for watching Free Speech TV. What's on your mind today? Howard? I'm not hearing Howard. Okay, let's try Chaz in Lakewood, Washington. Hey, Chaz. Can you hear me?
Nazadrovia, comrade.
There you go. Hey, Chaz, how you doing?
It is another glorious day in Trumpistan, is it not?
Yes. Trumpist.
All right, listen, before I make my point, do me a favor. Next time you talk to Julio or Charles Sauer, would you ask them who's signing their checks?
Yeah, okay.
All right.
It's considered an impolite question, and
I know it would be, but they wouldn't stoop to anything short of impolite when they're questioning.
I get that, Chaz, but the problem is
it's a glorious day in Trumpistan, but you know who's having an even better day than us, Tom?
Who's that?
What is your heritage again?
I'm about half Norwegian and about the other half probably mostly English and Welsh. Why?
I'm wondering why you're not pounding us over the head that the happiest countries in the world are also the most highly taxed.
Oh, I reference that frequently.
Right. And right now, can you tell me what country has the highest global rep right now?
The highest global what?
The highest global reputation.
Oh, reputation. Oh, I would assume the Scandinavian countries,
Right. In this case, it's Germany. I'm just trying to say that the countries that are most forward-thinking, those that have the free health care, those that put an emphasis on infrastructure, those are the countries that have a higher standard of living. I just can't imagine why we're sitting here in the back when the rest of the world is chugging forward. China and Japan has trains that go 300 miles an hour, and just a mile or two away from my house, we're finally getting a train that's getting up to 80 miles per hour.
Yeah, Chaz, there's a simple answer to your question, and it's that the fossil fuel billionaires find it more profitable to continue using fossil fuels and not go to 21st century energy sources, and thus not invest in things like, modern electric trains and high-speed transportation and things like that. They're just, as long as they can milk this thing, they're going to continue to. And we privatized the railroads during Reagan, so you're stuck. I mean, Amtrak can't go over 70 miles an hour on most of its routes in the Northeast here, not because Amtrak is incompetent, not because the locomotives won't do it. They can't go over 70 miles an hour because the private for-profit rail companies, train companies that own that track refuse to upgrade it to handle high-speed trains. They're making their money on freight trains, and they don't give a damn about Amtrak. They don't care about passenger traffic. And, in my opinion, that should be changed. We should nationalize our railroads, or at least our rails, and turn them into...
perhaps our internet as well.
Yeah. Net neutrality, certainly, absolutely. Completely with you. And this is, the point that I think you were probably most importantly making, Chaz, at the very beginning, is that these high-tax countries have a high standard of living, long lifespan, low infant mortality, lower levels of mental illness, lower levels of drug abuse, lower levels of divorce, lower levels of teenage pregnancy, lower levels of venereal disease. You name the social ill, and you can find an association between that and inequality without much difficulty. The Spirit Level is a brilliant book on this, as is Why Inequality Matters by Wilkinson and Pickett. Hartmann here with you, and just to Rita, who's on hold, our caller on Rita, who's on hold, I will pick up your call right after our first guest at the top of the next hour. My apologies, Rita. Alan Ratner is with us with Talk Media News, talkmedianews.com. This report brought to you by goatsfortheoldgoat.com and Ellen's new book, Loving What You Do. And hey, Ellen, I was over at your website this morning, goatsfortheoldgoat.com.
You were over our website, and I sent you an email about it. So Goats for the Old Goat is the name of our website, and you can give a goat. Today is Giving Tuesday, which is why I'm here on a Tuesday instead of Wednesday. And you can give a goat to help somebody who is starving in South Sudan. We only give out lady goats so they don't get eaten. And we are the only animal group that gives people a photograph of their animal and the name of the recipient. And there's a line in your ordering that you can put who you want it to. And so it's goatsfortheoldgoat.com on this Giving Tuesday, and one goat produces enough milk, 1.5 liters of milk a day. I went to a school where the kids had that telltale red hair from lack of nutrition.
Right,
and after we gave out 400 goats to the school, we went back a year later, there was no malnutrition. So it really does work, and we know they really do use it.
Wow, that's an amazing story.
So, all right, well, some news. So there is a Senator Daines. He is a Republican from Montana. He says that he's not going to vote for the tax bill. The president is up on the Hill right now meeting with people, and Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer were supposed to meet with him, but he tweeted that he didn't see any way out of a government shutdown, so they canceled the meeting with him.
Right.
And the government shutdown happens on December 8th. So it was supposed to happen, as you know, on the 30th of September, the last day of the fiscal year. However, they were able to move it to December. Now December has rolled around, and they still don't have any legislation to beat it.
Is this because there's not a budget?
Well, there's nothing, honestly, and the tax bill, which includes, by the way, a repeal of I believe it's 1954, don't hold me to it, but I think it's 54 rule that says that churches and synagogues and mosques can't give to specific...
Right, the so-called Johnson Amendment.
This Johnson Amendment. Thank you very much for that. And so basically that rule would be rescinded under this tax plan, and people are going nuts about it in Washington.
How so? I get that all the churches want not all the churches, that the right-wing activist churches want this rule done away with.
The right-wing activist churches want it. The National Council of Churches does not want it.
Right.
Even the liberal Baptist churches don't want it because they say it will divide congregations.
Yep.
It will make Christianity a very divisive...
It'll make it political.
That's right, and they don't want to do it.
Right, and wise they are. What else is going on?
Very wise they are. Okay. So also, apparently tomorrow at the House Judiciary Committee, there's going to be a debate about making concealed carried go across state lines. Currently, a concealed carry permit is only good in that particular state. They want to have a discussion about making it in all states. So if Texas has a concealed carry permit, then it's good in North Carolina or wherever else there's a concealed carry permit. Gabby Giffords, who, as you know, was shot, she was a member of Congress. She has this Giffords group, and she has come out against it.
Wow. Good on her.
Yesterday, this is yesterday's news, but I think it's relevant, that he said we should basically watch the networks and decide who wins the fake news trophy.
Oh, he being Trump, yeah.
I'm sorry?
He being Trump, yeah.
He being Trump, sorry, yes. And what's so fascinating is, of course, Veritas Project tried to get the Washington Post to put a story in that Roy Moore had gotten a woman pregnant and drove her to an abortion. But the Post was able to figure out that this was completely fake. They actually had somebody watching from a table. They met this woman at a restaurant. They had somebody watching from a table and filming it, and she got up and left.
Yeah. Yeah, and what's interesting, her name is Jamie Phillips, and she claimed to have spent only one summer in Alabama. This from Aaron Blake in today's Washington Post. Yet she called from an Alabama area code and had Roll Tide in her email address, something only a real hardcore Alabama would know about. And the rallying cry of the University of Alabama sports teams, the Crimson Tide. And so, you know, the Washington Post is scratching their head. Was she sent to Veritas by the Moore campaign? And then also Donald Trump has made several $10,000 substantial contributions to Project Veritas, to O'Keefe's organization that's doing this slimy stuff that they pretend is journalism.
Well, this is this whole issue of him tweeting. This is the president tweeting yesterday about who's going to be the most dishonest news organization.
Right.
I mean, give me a break.
Yeah. I wonder, did that tweet go out after or before the Washington Post had exposed this woman?
I'm not sure, but I think it went out before, actually.
So he was probably expecting that the
tweet went out yesterday afternoon, I believe, and I think that the Washington Post story didn't come out till the evening.
So he might have been expecting that the Washington Post was going to get busted by O'Keefe, and that's why he tweeted it. Or he just knew that their so-called sting operation had gone down in flames, and so he was trying to get ahead of it. Yeah.
Right, and of course Veritas is saying, well, our sting operation went down in flames. Well, yes, it did.
Yeah, yeah. Fascinating stuff.
Okay. There's a whole lot more news, and that is that Native American groups are very upset with the comments the president made yesterday in the Oval Office with the 3 Navajo code talkers, and this was directed at Elizabeth Warren and her Pocahontas, was what he calls her, and they have said that that's insulting to Native American groups, so that is interesting.
Yeah, it very much is. And the thing that I was so saddened by is that one of those code talkers gave an amazing speech about what it means to be free in the United States and how we're all in this together and we need to pull with each other and for each other and, you know, one for all and all for one and all this. It was just a brilliant speech from a guy who was a former Marine who helped save the world from fascism. And Donald Trump throws Pocahontas at this guy. I mean, it's just
why even bother?
Yeah, I think he's thinking, I got to act like a racist for my base. Or maybe he's just a racist, and that's what comes out. Ellen Ratner with Talk Media News. Thank you, Ellen. We'll be back.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
The Thom Hartmann Program is brought to you in part by the Aiden Forecast, an investment newsletter with weekly updates of leading market indicators and a monthly deep dive into what the details of the economy and the markets mean for investors and retirees. On the web at aidenmarkets.com. Wines have some of the highest pesticide levels in our food chain. This hour brought to you by ecowine.com. Pesticide-free wines, organic wines, imported from France by the organic wine company, ecowine.com. Hartmann Program is brought to you in part by Super Beets. Super Beets are sourced from non-GMO beets, and they're packed with dietary nitrates, helping to produce nitric oxide for more energy, stamina, and support for healthy blood pressure levels naturally. For more information, call 800-223-8242 or visit tomsbeets.com. Giving Tuesday, perfectly timed. It's the second day of our Free Speech TV Fund Drive. Our goal is for these 3 weeks, for this show, is $150,000 to raise that amount of money for Free Speech TV. And that's $10,000 a day for 3 weeks, basically. And yesterday we hit almost $2,000. Our goal is $10,000 a day. So we're $8,000 in the hole already. It's Giving Tuesday. It's the perfect day to make a contribution. So please call Free Speech TV now and make a gift. 877-378-8669 is the telephone number, as I recall. Is that right, Nate? Yeah, that's right. Okay, thank you. And doing these things from memory. And it's, I mean, this is serious stuff. We're talking about, you know, the Republicans getting ready to really significantly alter America, to lock in Reaganomics in a way that might not change for generations. They're certainly doing that with the federal courts right now, locking in new judges after blocking Obama's appointments for the last 2 years, including to the Supreme Court. It's, I mean, these guys are completely shameless, and what they're doing needs to be exposed and discussed, although in large part there's no exposing of it in the corporate media, which is why you're here. It's why I'm here. It's, you know, we can get the message out. We can speak the truth. We can push back. We can speak back. We can speak truth to power. The big networks can't do that. If they speak truth to powerful politicians, those powerful politicians will refuse to come on their biggest shows, you know, the Sunday morning shows and things like that, and, you know, essentially punish them. And as a result of that, they end up not having a show anymore. So functionally, all these networks have become basically sycophants to the two political parties. You know, don't ask embarrassing questions of Democrats about, you know, Bill Clinton's relationship with banks, and don't ask, or whatever, and don't ask unpleasant or uncomfortable questions of Republicans like, why do you guys keep voting to screw the average working person? Is it because, you know, the billionaires are lining your pockets? You're never going to hear that question. I might ask an occasional guest, but you're not going to hear it in the corporate media. Free Speech TV is vital. This is a lifeline, this network. And without this network, our American media landscape gets a whole lot more horrible, which is one of the reasons that, you know, not only please call now and make a gift, 877-378-8669, not only that, but also please make a commitment to yourself that over the course of the next week, you're going to tell at least 3 people about Free Speech TV. If every week you told 3 people, well, it would, if everybody watching did that, it would just be huge. I mean, we would double and triple the size of this network in less than a year. You can have a significant impact. Similarly with your contribution, a $10 gift, a $20 gift, a $100 gift, you know, whatever you can afford, it means a lot. It makes a big difference. So what are the premiums with a $30 gift? We'll send you a bumper sticker for the Thom Hartmann University. It's, you know, suitable for bumpers. It's a nice bumper sticker. With the $60 gift, you get the Free Speech TV 16-month calendar plus
the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker with, and $60 can be $5 a month for a year, right? It's divisible by 12. $120 donation or $10 a month for a year. You get Van Jones's new book, Beyond the Messy Truth, and the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker. With a $240 contribution, you get Van Jones's book, Beyond the Messy Truth, plus Claudia Rankine's book, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Citizen. And we're going to try and get Claudia on the show to talk about, and Van Jones too, to talk about their books and why they're so cool. That's with a $240 gift. With a $360 gift, you get Beyond the Messy Truth by Van Jones, Citizen by Claudia Rankine, and Unequal Protection by me, a book about the state of our democracy. This is the book that I began, the first half of the book, when I was writing it, I thought I was writing What Would Jefferson Do, because that was my goal. And then I hit the Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad case in 1886. It blew my mind, and I ended up, finishing this book as a book about the Supreme Court. So that's Unequal Protection. That's a $360 gift. And with a $1,000 gift, come to Portland, and Louise and I will take you to lunch. Or not always Louise, but I'll take you to lunch, certainly. I can guarantee that. And so anyhow, it's Giving Tuesday. Today is the day to make a contribution. You can do it right now by calling 877-378-8669. 877-378-8669. Please call now. This network is vital. Free Speech TV is such an important part of our media landscape. And it only exists, Free Speech TV only exists because you have helped get us this far. Please help us continue for the rest of this year and move into next year in a good position. Please, let's make up yesterday and make your contributions now. Thank you so much. 877-378-8669. Is attention deficit disorder a different perception?
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Welcome to the third hour of our program. Alex Lawson will be with us in just a moment. I wanted to just give you a real quick step into the Wayback Machine. I played this clip in the first hour. It kind of got buried in everything that we've been doing today and talking about. I want to go back to it real quickly. In 1920, Warren Harding ran for president on the platform of more business in government, less government in business. More business in government means privatize government functions, and less government in business means deregulate. So Warren Harding ran in 1920 on a platform of deregulate and privatize and tax cuts. The top tax rate for very, very wealthy people in 1920 when Warren Harding was running was a leftover from World War I of 91%. Warren Harding dropped it down to 25% in 1921-22 and kicked off the Roaring Twenties, which led directly to the Great Crash in 1929. And the Republicans in the 20s, in the Roaring Twenties, just like the Republicans today, didn't give a rat's ass about the budget deficit. And this is Franklin Roosevelt on October 21st, 1936, pointing out that the Republican Party always screams about deficits and always screams about debt, but when they get in control, as they did in the 1920s, they don't give a damn about the deficit or the debt because they owe money to their rich donors. Here is Franklin Roosevelt.
They had political debt to those who sat at their elbows. To pay those political debts, they reduced the taxes of their friends in the higher bracket and left the national debt to be paid by later generations.
Yeah. So this is not a new movie. On the line with us, Alex Lawson, the Executive Director of Social Security Works. SocialSecurityWorks.org is the website. You can tweet him at ALaw202 or at SSWorks. And Alex also fills in for me a lot, something that I'm very grateful for. You're a great talk show host and a brilliant Executive Director for Social Security Works, Alex. Thank you for being with us.
Thanks for having me, Tom.
So who is Alex Azar and why should I care?
So Alex Azar is, well, let me actually go a different way. You just played something from Harding, so right.
No, that was actually FDR. Yeah, it was
from
about
FDR. Yes,
yeah.
Around you played something from FDR around Harding's push for privatizing government. Now, just a little bit before that, there was a drug developed in 1920 called insulin. And I want you to hold in mind that's how old this drug is, and it's really germane to the conversation about Alex Azar. It's older than that clip you just played from FDR. Alex Azar is the person who Donald Trump has nominated to be basically in charge of our healthcare system in this country. He would be the head of HHS. He would replace Tom Price, who all your listeners know is the man who was too corrupt even for Donald Trump's cabinet and had to leave after only 10 months because he was blowing millions of our dollars flying private jets around the country. Right. They really don't hide their Bond villain-esque ness.
Yes.
They're just really open about it now, I feel. So Alex Azar would be, it's hard in his cabinet of horribles, but he might be the worst. He is everything that's wrong with the revolving door in Washington, D.C., between government and private industry. He was at HHS before. He was a deputy director, before that the general counsel. And in that position, he was actually overseeing the government prosecuting drug corporations for off-label marketing, illegal off-label marketing, but he saw that as an opportunity to go sell himself to that corporation as one of their chief lobbyists so he could negotiate a settlement of $1.4 billion, which sounds like a lot of money until you learn that they made $30 billion illegally marketing, off-label marketing this drug. That is who Alex Azar is.
Well, and hang on just a second, if I may. When you illegally market a drug, when you promote people using a drug for purposes that it's not designed for and that it's never been tested for, you're putting people's lives at risk.
Definitely. There's no question about it. You say that because it's like that is shocking for most people, for decent people, but for this guy, Alex Azar, it's just he doesn't see things.
Well, he saw $30 billion coming down the road from lying to people, apparently.
Exactly. The reason I started with insulin is because what he's done. So the company is Eli Lilly, and he rose through the ranks after that revolving door to become the president of the U.S. The U.S. part of Eli Lilly, which is the largest part of the corporation. And in that role, he raised the price of insulin, which is it's for folks with diabetes, both type 1 and type 2 diabetes. Folks with type 1 diabetes, including children who are born without the ability to produce insulin, they need to take a shot of insulin every single day to live. It is, if they don't have it, they die. And Alex Azar oversaw a company that worked in collusion, for all intents and purposes. You can look at their pricings, to just increase the price of insulin every single year, year after year after year, 300%. While he was at Eli Lilly.
And the two competing manufacturers follow those prices the same way that if American Airlines jacks up a price, United and Delta do the next day. I mean, it was just they don't even have to collude anymore. There's so few players in these marketplaces that it's collusion right out in open.
And they're super open about it. You can look at there's three companies that produce the insulin. Eli Lilly's the one that is the fast-acting insulin product. The chart of their price increases is so they're so on point with each other that you can't see the two lines.
Right.
Every year, it's like a step up. They increase prices the exact same amount. So much so that they're under investigation by 5 states. Bernie Sanders and Representative Cummings sent a letter requesting the federal government investigate them for collusion and price fixing, and there's a class action lawsuit against price fixing, and they were found guilty in Mexico of price fixing. And the reason is because it's pretty obvious they're fixing prices. And this is the guy who Donald Trump wants to put in charge of our healthcare system. He should be under criminal investigation, not in charge of our healthcare system.
I agree. This is remarkable. Alex, in the minute we have left here, what can people do about this?
So call your senators, just all of them. Call your senators and demand that until the investigations into Eli Lilly's potential criminal price fixing are finished, he shouldn't even get a hearing. He shouldn't even get a hearing until those investigations are finished.
So Alex Azar should not get even a hearing until the criminal investigations into his behavior as head of Eli Lilly, particularly with regard to the jacking up the price of insulin, have been finished. That's it?
That's it.
And say that to Republican senators, Democratic senators, all senators. Say it as often as you can and frequently, right?
Exactly.
Okay. Are other websites? I'm assuming Social Security Works.
Yeah, you can go to socialsecurityworks.org. If you sign the petition there, you'll get all of our updates, including everything about Alex Azar and our work to stop the tax scam that's moving forward at the same time. They're trying to overwhelm us with terribleness, but we just have to stay on top of everything.
Yeah, amen. Alex Lawson, the Executive Director of Social Security Works. SocialSecurityWorks.org is the website. You can tweet at SSWorks or at ALaw202. Alex, thanks so much.
Thanks, Tom.
Keep doing the great work, Alex. You are doing such great work. Thank you. We'll be back. Stick around.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Back with more of the news of the day and your calls right after this. And welcome back. Karen in Atascadero, California. I'm sure I'm mangling that, Karen. How do you say your town?
Atascadero.
Aha. Okay, Atascadero. That makes sense. So what's up?
I have been hearing, I'm a social worker, and I've been hearing that attached to this tax bill is that they're also going to try to throw people off of Social Security disability and Social Security insurance.
I'm not sure that that's part of the tax bill. I mean, there are efforts to do that in other areas and via other means. And the main one is, and this has been going on for about a decade now, is that the Social Security Administration is running at about, as I recall, and I'm doing this from memory, it's been a few months since I've seen the numbers, but my recollection is that their budget right now for their personnel, for the people who, when you call Social Security, you go to the office, the people you interact with, that budget over the last decade or so has been slashed by at least 5%. So at the same time that the boomers are aging out and the demand for Social Security has exploded. And the result of that is that what used to take 6 months to get your Social Security disability approved now takes 2 years, and probably is going to take 3 years next year. It's that Social Security is getting harder and harder to navigate, and particularly the more complex things like SSDI. This is just the classic Republican strategy of take a federal agency or take a government agency, break it, and then stand around and point at it and saying, "Hey, look it's broken. Let's replace it with a big bank or something private so that a billionaire can make some money on this." That's the game, Karen.
But I'm hearing that they're really trying to throw people off who already do have it.
I'm not sure about that.
Okay, I don't know. It's hard to find a lot of information on that.
Yeah.
Because actually, that's a population that people usually don't care about.
Yeah. Well, except that it can be very expensive. But yeah, I don't know exactly what they're doing. It's a lot of it's buried inside agencies. And now that you've got people running the executive branch of the federal government who are actually hostile to the federal government, anything could happen.
Right.
So, I'm sorry I don't have a specific answer, but Karen, I got to move along. Thank you for the call, Glenn in New York City. Hey, Glenn, what's up?
Yeah, this Republican tax bill seems to me amounts to massive pump priming. That's where you the government puts money into the economy to spur it on. and that's usually supposed to be for a recession or a downturn in the economy to get the economy going. But this seems to be a massive pump priming, and it's going to create inflation. We haven't had real inflation in so long, I don't think they even know what's going to happen.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. And this is a serious problem, Glenn, and that is that typically the way rational economic policy is done is that you raise taxes during times of great profitability and low unemployment. You know, if you're running a deficit, you have to raise taxes in order to get your deficit down to zero. You raise taxes during times like this, and you lower taxes like during times like 2008 to 2009 when you've got an economic crisis and you want to stimulate the economy. Trump just wants the economy juiced. He doesn't care. I mean, this is like steroids for a sports athlete or a prize fighter or something. He just wants the juice. And it's going to be very destructive for the economy. Glenn, spot on. Thank you for pointing that out. We'll be right back.
Hi there, I'm Marie.
On April 15, 1949,
Whether through giving donations, volunteering, or spreading the word about Free Speech TV has made it possible for the only independent progressive news network to exist. And for that, I want to say thank you. Now you can give to the network powered by the people by donating an unwanted or used vehicle through our Vehicles of Change program. If you have an old car, RV, or even a motorcycle, Free Speech TV can use it to grow and thrive. You can make a bigger difference in supporting Free Speech TV by giving an old car. It's a great way to support the network without having to dig into your bank account. Just call 877-378-8669 and ask for more information about Vehicles of Change. Again, the number to call is 877-378-8669. If it has a VIN, we'll take it in. Thank you.
I'm Nina Turner, and you're watching Free Speech TV.
The music down. It's way over my head. There we go. Hey, Rita. Okay. My apologies for how long you had to wait. We had the news at the last half of the last hour, and then we had Alex at the beginning of here. Thank you for listening to 9:50 a.m. in Minneapolis. What's on your mind today?
Yeah, well, thank you for all that you're doing. I wanted to talk about the Republican tax bill, but I think the point that I want to make is beyond that. Mm-hmm. One of the things that I found frustrating for a while now is when I hear like progressive people talk about like say the tax bill and says and refers to it as the tax reform bill.
Right.
Because by my definition of reform, this is anything but a reform. And I hear you doing this today, but I really wish that the progressive movement would take a play out of the, right-wing playbook and think of ways to, like, label bills and repeat it over and over. For example, I don't think I have the best ideas, but instead of tax reform, call it the soak the little guy bill. Or instead of, medical reform, call it cut Medicare or medical benefits bill. I feel like, those kind of like short little things catch on with people.
Yeah.
Whereas if you keep referring to it as just the tax bill, I don't know. That's my.
Yeah, I refer to it as the tax scam, but I get what you're saying, Rita, and I agree with you. But if you have multiple, well, maybe even multiple, one group calling it the tax scam, another group calling it the soak the average guy. Another group calling it the tax cuts for billionaires legislation. The really destructive stuff is that the CBO has said that if this bill passes, there's going to be an immediate 4% cut to Medicare and then an additional 4% every year for the next decade. That's going to wipe out Medicare. And they're acknowledging there's $1 trillion worth of Medicaid cuts and $500 billion worth of Medicare cuts coming down the road in this tax bill. And very few people are talking about it, Rita.
Well, and my mother died last year after many years in a nursing home with dementia. Mm-hmm. And she actually was fortunate in that she didn't actually run out of her own money. But from what I hear, at least 2/3 of the older people in nursing homes are on Medicaid.
That's correct.
And what are you going to do with those people when they, when they kick them out of the nursing homes?
Right, they're gonna end up in your house, and and you can thank the Republicans for that. I mean, that's what it's coming to, and have we so impoverished our nation that we can no longer care for our elderly people? Really? I mean, that's the direction they're taking this. Rita, thank you. Very, very brilliant contribution.
Tom?
Yes, Rita.
Could I make just one more point about the tax bill?
Certainly.
I'm from Minnesota, and we have an income tax, and we are a progressive-oriented state. This tax bill will raise my taxes.
Right.
And I've heard some people say, well, why should the government favor states that do more taxes? And I've wanted to say to that, last I heard, Minnesota got back 78% for every dollar it sent to Washington.
Right.
So what this is going to do is make, I guess, that Minnesota's going to get 70% or something back.
Yeah.
And I think this is probably true of a lot of, especially the progressive states. And I think it might be worth emphasizing the inequity in that also.
Yeah, this is explicitly a stick it to the blue states piece of legislation. I mean, there's so many goodies in this legislation for the hard right. From saying that churches who go on political jeremiads, no pun intended, are perfectly welcome to do so without their tax exempt status being affected. It just goes on and on. Rita, thank you for the call. Very well said. Tom in Champaign, Illinois. Hey, Tom, what's up?
Hi, Tom. My comment is, if you blend the mafia mentality in with the oligarch mentality, you're going to get, I think, kind of like what we have now, where like things are done in secret and hiding your taxes. I mean, Al Capone would have probably, he had pretty much power to take somebody out if, they spoke out against him.
Right, it's why he only got busted for taxes.
What's that?
It's why he only got busted for tax evasion.
Right, and he didn't want to show his taxes.
Right. Yeah, there is an analogy there, isn't there? Tom, I agree with you, and this is why I've been saying for years. In fact, I wrote an op-ed about a year ago called "The Republican Party is a racketeering influenced criminal organization, and should be prosecuted under the RICO statutes." And I continue to believe that to be the case. Tom, thank you for the call. Well said. David in Peatone.
It's Peatone, Tom.
Illinois.
Chicago area. So, my thought was on this tax bill is that the Republicans are, not only do they have the short term of this down for, giving away to the billionaire class and everything, but they even have a strategic motive here, and that is, with the exception of the Medicare and Medicaid things that you mentioned, that they're cutting, that obviously hurt a lot of people, they get to, even if you look at historical trends of what happens with Congress, even if they lose Congress, assuming they get this passed, but if they lose Congress in 2018, they get to campaign on the idea of, hey, look, we cut taxes, and then, of course, the economy will not do well with the massive tax cuts. There'll be enormous deficits and everything. And then they'll be able to say to the Democrats who are actually being the responsible party, saying, hey, look, we need to fund this. They will say,
no money.
Look, we cut taxes, but the Democrats are going to raise your taxes.
Yeah,
so
spot on, David. And this is not tax reform. This is a scam. Thank you, David.
Oh, of course it is.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
Back with more of the news of the day and your calls right after this. Tuesday, perfectly timed. It's the second day of our Free Speech TV Fund Drive. Our goal is for these 3 weeks for this show is $150,000 to raise that amount of money for Free Speech TV, and that's $10,000 a day for 3 weeks basically. And yesterday we hit almost $2,000. Our goal is $10,000 a day, so we're $8,000 in the hole already. It's Giving Tuesday. It's the perfect day to make a contribution. So please call Free Speech TV now, and make a gift. 877-378-8669 is the telephone number, as I recall. Is that right, Nate? Yeah, that's right. Okay, thank you. And doing these things from memory. And it's, I mean, this is serious stuff. We're talking about, you know, the Republicans getting ready to really significantly alter America, to lock in Reaganomics in a way that might not change for generations. They're certainly doing that with the federal courts right now, locking in new judges after blocking Obama's appointments for the last 2 years, including to the Supreme Court. It's, I mean, these guys are completely shameless, and what they're doing needs to be exposed and discussed, although in large part there's no exposing of it in the corporate media, which is why you're here. It's why I'm here. It's, you know, we can get the message out. We can speak the truth. We can push back. We can speak back. We can speak truth to power. The big networks can't do that. If they speak truth to powerful politicians, those powerful politicians will refuse to come on their biggest shows, you know, the Sunday morning shows and things like that, and, you know, essentially punish them. And as a result of that, they end up not having a show anymore. So functionally, all these networks have become basically sycophants to the two political parties. You know, don't ask embarrassing questions of Democrats about, you know, Bill Clinton's relationship with banks, and don't ask, or whatever, and don't ask unpleasant or uncomfortable questions of Republicans, like, why do you guys keep voting to screw the average working person? Is it because, you know, the billionaires are lining your pockets? You're never going to hear that question. I might ask an occasional guest, but you're not going to hear it in the corporate media. Free Speech TV is vital. This is a lifeline, this network. And without this network, our American media landscape gets a whole lot more horrible, which is one of the reasons that, you know, not only please call now and make a gift, 877-378-8669, not only that, but also please make a commitment to yourself that over the course of the next week, you're going to tell at least 3 people about Free Speech TV. If every week you told 3 people, well, if everybody watching did that, it would just be huge. I mean, we would double and triple the size of this network in less than a year. You can have a significant impact. Similarly with your contribution, a $10 gift, a $20 gift, a $100 gift, you know, whatever you can afford, it means a lot. It makes a big difference. So what are the premiums with a $30 gift? We'll send you a bumper sticker for the Thom Hartmann University. It's, you know, suitable for bumpers. It's a nice bumper sticker. With the $60 gift, you get the Free Speech TV 16-month calendar plus the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker. And $60 can be $5 a month for a year, right? It's divisible by 12. $120 donation or $10 a month for a year. You get Van Jones's new book, Beyond the Messy Truth, and the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker. With a $240 contribution, you get Van Jones's book, Beyond the Messy Truth, plus Claudia Rankine's book, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Citizen. And we're going to try and get Claudia on the show to talk about, and Van Jones too, to talk about their books and why they're so cool. That's with a $240 gift. With a $360 gift, you get Beyond the Messy Truth by Van Jones, Citizen by Claudia Rankine, and Unequal Protection by me, a book about the state of our democracy. This is the book that I began, you know, the first half of the book, when I was writing it, I thought I was writing What Would Jefferson Do, because that was, you know, that was my goal. And then I hit the Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad case in 1886. It blew my mind, and I ended up, you know, finishing this book as a book about the Supreme Court. So that's Unequal Protection. That's the $360 gift. And with a $1,000 gift, come to Portland, and Louise and I will take you to lunch. Or not always Louise, but, you know, I'll take you to lunch, certainly. I can guarantee that. And so anyhow, it's Giving Tuesday. Today is the day to make a contribution. You can do it right now by calling 877-378-8669. 877-378-8669. Please call now. This network is vital. Free Speech TV is such an important part of our media landscape. And it only exists, Free Speech TV only exists because you have helped get us this far. Please help us continue for the rest of this year and move into next year in a good position. Please, let's make up yesterday and make your contributions now. Thank you so much. 877-378-8669. Thank you. Ray in Portland, Oregon. Hey, Ray, what's on your mind? Ray?
Hello?
Hey, Ray, you're on the air.
Okay. This is actually Russ in Portland.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, you're right. It says Russ. My fault. Hey, Russ.
That's okay. That's okay. Listen, here's the deal. We're facing a tsunami of what I call fascist feces on every front, and one item that's not getting a lot of attention, it's getting no attention from the mainstream media, is a piece of legislative feces that oozed out of the office of Bruce Westerman, who represents the 4th Congressional District of Arkansas. It's called the Resilient Federal Forest Act of 2017.
Oh, no.
What this will do, this will gut the National Environmental Policy Act, the Endangered Species Act, and the Roadless Rule of 2001. It will mean the destruction of the last 4% of native forest that is publicly owned on federal land in this country. Now, it has passed the House of Representatives, but I have it on very good authority. I'm very well connected to people, environmental people, lawyers, etc. It is not going to make it as a standalone bill in the United States Senate because there's a filibuster. They need 60 votes. They don't have the 60 votes. What they are going to do, in all likelihood, is attach this piece of crap as a rider on a must-pass appropriations bill. And what people need to do, if they care about the legacy of Theodore Roosevelt, the national forests, the wilderness areas, etc., the beauty of which I cannot even begin to describe here on the radio. But if people care about this, and they should, they need to contact their United States Senator and tell them not to have anything to do with, to stop this thing if it shows up as a rider on an appropriations bill. That's what they need to do. And are you back in Portland now, Tom?
I am. Yeah.
It's great to have you back.
Thank you, Russ.
So
contact your member of Congress and say no to, what's the title of this? What's the name of this?
It's called, it's H.R. 2936, H.R. 2936, also known as the Resilient Federal Forest Act of 2017, which is an Orwellian title. The guy, let me tell you something about the guy who wrote this. Actually, he invited the industry into his office. The industry wrote this bill, if you want to know the truth. And when he was a state legislator in Arkansas, he sponsored legislation to require biblical education in the public schools.
Oh,
I mean, this is the kind of person we're talking about here. He's an engineer. He has a degree in so-called forestry from the Yale School of Forestry. Now, understand that forestry in the United States means you cut down what God put there, the native forest, and you replace it with a monoculture tree plantation. That is what forestry is. It was imported in the 19th century, in the late 19th century, from Germany, lock, stock, and sauerkraut, and it has evolved somewhat in Germany, but they are still practicing 19th century German forestry here in the United States. And it means they tell this huge lie that the native forest is a, quote, biological desert. And I can tell you, having spent thousands of hours in native forests, it is a fountain of life.
Sure.
They tell the one Orwellian lie after another. It is,
I got
day
it, Russ.
is night.
I got it. Thank you for
just
sensitizing us to that. It's something that people need to be paying attention to. Thank you for the call. Leota in Grants Pass, Oregon. Hey, it's an Oregon day. Hey, Leota, what's up?
Hi. Hi, Tom. I was watching Meet the Press with Chuck Todd.
Mm-hmm.
He had Nancy Pelosi on, and he questioned her for several minutes about the sex scandals, and then he went to dismiss her, and she said, wait a minute, I came on here to talk about this tax reform. And he said, I'm sorry, we're out of time. And she said, I'm going to say something, and she tried to express her views, and he interrupted her the whole time.
Right.
Then he had a Republican senator on next, and questioned him a little bit about the sex scandals, and then said, oh, being Nancy spoke about the tax reform, we're going to let you talk. And so he let him talk about it.
Yeah. Well, Meet the Press and all the other Sunday shows have a known so-called conservative, at least Republican bias. They always have. Groups like Fairness and Accuracy in Reporting that Jeff Cohen started, fair.org, they went to these TV shows, to the networks, back during the Bush administration, and they said, why is it that 6 to 4, 60% or more of your guests every weekend are Republicans? And the network said, well, that's because there's a president in the White House who is a Republican, George Bush, and so we figured American people would want to know the opinion of the governing party. So then Barack Obama becomes president for 8 years, and during those 8 years, Meet the Press, Face the Nation, all these shows, they all continue to have 60, 70% Republicans. I used to make the joke, if it's Sunday, it's Meet the Republicans. And so they asked, again, Fair asked the networks, why is it that when President Obama is president, you're still having 60% Republicans? And the network said, oh, because people want to hear the voice of the opposition. So, I mean, those are the excuses that they make going back and forth. The bottom line is that the corporate interests.
I've heard you talk about it, but this was so black and white, I couldn't believe it.
Oh yeah. It's the corporate interests are just so obvious, and it's a tragedy for a democratic republic. It really is. Leota, thank you for the call. Very well said. Dave in Federal Way, Washington. Hey, Dave, what's up?
Hey, not too much, Tom. Hey, there was a Trump supporter that called in and actually said something interesting, at least in my opinion, and I want to get your take on it. He was complaining about, or he was saying that we're better off with Trump than Hillary Clinton because Hillary Clinton's a proven liar. Well, the host pushed back and said, look, Donald Trump is a serial liar.
Yeah, Dave, for some reason, we already had this conversation with somebody else. James in Spokane. Hey, James, what's on your mind?
How you doing, TA? Good to talk to you.
Fine.
So a couple of short comments and then a short question for you.
Sure.
The members of Lincoln's Grand Old Party had turned it into the Grand Obfuscation Party. The members are banana Republicans, and a pejorative I think they might want to take on. They're foxholes.
Yeah. I like GOP equals greedy old party. How's that?
That's good, too. Yeah. Grand obfuscation.
Or greedy old white people. There's no W in there, though.
What these rich people do not understand, generally speaking, if there's a general lack of health care, we're going to get an epidemic situation.
Yeah.
And bacteria does not discriminate.
Yeah. It's a public health issue.
That?
It's also a national security issue. If somebody were to attack us, and one of the things that we know, for example, if you want to get all hysterical, North Korea just launched an intercontinental ballistic missile. We're still waiting to get all the details on this thing. But, Kim Jong-un has gotten, and the North Koreans in general, I mean, historically, have gotten really, really good at having big impact with small expense. And, for example, a lot of the drugs that are being imported into the United States and are killing people, the phony fentanyl, the old meth and crack and things, a lot of that stuff, particularly the synthetic drugs, were coming out of North Korea. Most of those things seem to be coming out of South Asia, and particularly North Korea and possibly China. And this is, it's a serious problem, James.
Hey, a point on that, Tom. If we had not outlawed opium, I think that probably would have been a safer alternative, and most people would have probably been happy with that.
Yeah, and weirdly enough, we were outlawing it here in the United States 30 years after we were supporting the British in forcing it on the Chinese, through the opium wars and 1898, I think it was, or 1899, when they took Hong Kong for a century. James, I got to run. Thank you for the call.
Wait. Question, Tom.
Sir.
Question. Yeah. Follow the money. Who profits from the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund?
The banks. It's very simple. The banks are supported by these banking institutions. James, thanks for the call. Jim in San Diego. Hey, Jim, got a minute till the break. What's up?
I sure do, Tom. Real quickly, that 4% cut in Medicare, please source where you found that. I already called my congressman.
It's from the CBO.
Okay,
the
good.
Congressional Budget Office.
I called on sexual harassment. I actually taught in a school in Manhattan Beach where victims of the McMartin, the largest sex trial, longest, most expensive trial in American history occurred. And I saw people's lives ruined, houses taken away, etc. My point is on that, I agree that all of more accusers should be heard, should be listened to, and I'm definitely not in any way in favor of more. But what we've got to do is we've got to make sure that we don't always jump to the conclusion that everyone is guilty just because there's accusations. I said,
because the McMartin
Ray
School
Bucky
thing was a
spent
scam.
5 years in jail, and charges were never brought against him.
Right. Yeah, and it turns out it was all hysteria being driven by a so-called psychologist or counselor or something who.
And Wayne Sachs at KBC TV. Yes, you're exactly correct.
Yep, and this plus what James O'Keefe did with Project Veritas yesterday, trying to scam the Washington Post to discredit women who are accusing Roy Moore. These are all reasons why we need to be cautious. I agree, Jim, on the one hand. On the other hand, women have been putting up with a lot of crap for a long, long time, and I'm glad to see the tide has turned. Jim, thanks for the call.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
Back with more of the news of the day and your calls right after this. And welcome back. Paul in Tempe, Arizona, watching Free Speech TV. Paul says you disagree with me. What's up?
Hey, I just want to know why you Democrats can't work with the president, try to get something done. You're so bitter that you lost that election. You just can't get over it, can you?
Why would I want to work with somebody who wants to hurt me to benefit himself, Paul?
He's not hurting you.
Yeah, Trump and the Republican tax plan is going to raise my taxes. It's going to raise your taxes.
No, you're not going to raise your taxes.
It's going to cut Medicare. It's going to cut Medicaid. It's going to hurt our society. Why should I support that?
No, it's not going to hurt our society.
Paul, where are you getting your information from?
Where are you getting your information from?
The Congressional Budget Office?
Yeah, it's not going to hurt you.
So if there's a $1 trillion cut in Medicaid, Paul, listen to me for a second. If there's a $1 trillion cut in Medicaid, and you and I can no longer afford to put our elderly parents in nursing homes, if there's a $500 billion cut to Medicare, and these are the things that the CBO says will happen as a result of this Republican tax bill, and so Medicare benefits start getting slashed. The Republicans for 8 years now have been cutting the budget at Social Security. Social Security is running on 4% less than it was 8 years ago. So the wait times for any kind of Social Security benefits have expanded to up to 2 years for Social Security disability. All these things are hurting us because the Republicans want to privatize Social Security and hand it over to the big banks, and because they want to privatize Medicare and Medicaid and hand it over to the big insurance companies. And they're quite open about this, Paul. I'm not making this up.
What did Obama do for 8 years?
What does that have to do with your original question, Paul? Tell me, why would I agree with the Republicans that we should destroy Medicare, we should destroy Medicaid, we should destroy Social Security, we should raise taxes to the tune of thousands of dollars a year on people making less than $50,000 a year, and cut taxes to the tune of millions of dollars a year on billionaires? Why should I agree with that?
Well, the reason you should agree with it, because we finally got somebody in there that's doing something for the economy. That's why you should agree with it.
How? What?
What did Trump do, or what did Obama do for 8 years?
We were losing 700,000 jobs a week, as I recall, or maybe a month, when
What did
Obama came into
Obama do?
office.
He runs
and
around
he
the
turned that
world
around to where we gained over 100,000 jobs a month in every single quarter of every single year of the last 7.5 years of the Obama administration. He put our economy back together. The Obama stimulus worked really well.
Apologizes for the United States.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you when you're interrupting me. Here are other things that Barack Obama did. The largest middle-class tax cut in the history of the United States. He saved Chrysler. You can pot him down a little bit, Sean. He saved Chrysler Corporation. He saved General Motors Corporation. He went from 800,000 jobs a month being lost to hundreds of thousands of jobs a month being created. He actually created jobs at a faster rate than Donald Trump is taking credit for right now, although Donald Trump shouldn't be taking credit for it because he inherited the economy that Obama gave him, which was working. He increased education spending. He cut the cost of student loans, Obama did. He strengthened the hate crime laws. He extended the Affordable Care Act. He expanded the Children's Health Insurance Program, which, by the way, the Republicans just killed. You're looking at 19 million children who won't have health care over the next 6 months as a result of this program, just so they can give more tax cuts to billionaires and multimillionaires. Barack Obama expanded the enforcement of child labor laws. The Republicans hate that and always have. They fought child labor laws in the 1920s. He reformed Wall Street. He got through the Dodd-Frank bill. He reformed the way that we interact with credit cards. He stopped predatory lending to soldiers. He stopped unpaid stop-loss time for soldiers. He increased Veterans Administration spending. He stopped torture. He did equal pay for women. And just goes on and on. Paul, thanks a lot for the call. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. And Terry in Alachua, Florida. Am I saying it right, Terry?
Close. Alachua.
Alachua. Okay, so what's up?
I think you just answered my question with the last caller. I was kind of confused about the $1 trillion taken out of Medicaid and the $500 billion out of Medicare. That's with this current tax plan that they want to pass, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so it hasn't passed yet.
That's correct. It has passed the House. It hasn't passed the Senate. And the Senate version and the House version are different, so they'd have to go to conference for reconciliation. And then I believe it would have to pass both bodies again. Depends on how they do it. They can do it in a way that doesn't require that, but we'll see.
Right. Because that is so scary for those of us that are disabled and are dependent on those.
Yes.
So I just wanted to clarify that it hadn't gone through yet.
Yeah, that's the case, Terry, and that's why it's important. Particularly, you live in Florida. You know, contact your Republican senator. Marco Rubio. Who's your other senator from Florida?
Bill Nelson.
Bill Nelson.
And we're hoping he's going to run again.
Yeah, you've got a Democrat down there. Yeah, call everybody. I mean, call both your senators and say, no to this phony baloney tax scam that the Republicans are trying to promote, and let them know. Terry, I got to move along, but thank you for the call. Very, very well said. Paul in Woodinville, Washington. Hey, Paul, what's up?
Yeah, Tom. So a previous caller was talking about this tax scam hurting many blue states. This is antithetical to their the Republicans and their states' rights and federalism. When they on the one hand want to make they wanted to block grant Medicaid, they want states to be on their own. Yet at the same time, why the hell should they be taking taxes if states are going to be on their own? Then when states are taking care of their own business by having taxes that take care of transportation, education, and health care, then what they're really saying is that we like big government because we want the federal government to come in and take more of your money, even though you're taking care of yourself.
It goes a step beyond that, Paul.
That's really the philosophy that they're promoting. They're the big government.
Yeah.
They're all about big government. You see what I'm saying? If they're going
I do, and I was reading.
Blue states get less than the dollar that they pay back that they give to Washington. They get on average about 78 cents back from Washington D.C. Yet here they are having to pay more money, even though the blue states are taking care of themselves.
I was reading a conservative blog yesterday, and somebody pointed out that if they can succeed in doing away with the SALT exemption, state and local taxes, if they can succeed in doing away with that, The principal benefit to the Republicans is that it will prevent any states from instituting single-payer health care.
That's right, because they won't be able to afford it.
That's correct.
And here's something else that's odd, and you start to think about this when Fox News and so on starts putting out the numbers. Did you know that the 1%, there's a huge disparity even in the 1%. The 1% starts at $500,000.
No, it starts at around 400,000. But yeah,
400. Okay, so we're talking about a heart surgeon, maybe a neurosurgeon.
Yep.
Makes about, and so I can find some sympathy for that. But yeah, they work long hours. They work very, very hard. But when you look at the numbers that say that the 1% earned 21% of the GDP, which means that I figured this out, about 1.5 million people made $4 trillion.
Right.
Which means that's not comprised of a bunch of $400,000 earners. That's comprised of a few people that are making a whole lot of money, like bazillions of dollars. So what we're really talking about is this tax scam is aimed at the 1/10 of 1%. That's about 150,000 people, the Betsy DeVosses of the world, the Koch brothers.
Yep.
That's who's going to get.
I would argue it's really
targeted. So really, when you talk about an old-style oligarchy of a few rich people, that's what this really is.
Yeah, and I would say it's not even the 1%. It's
the
worse
1/10
than
of
that.
1%.
Yeah, and it's not even that.
And the 1% comprises of people starts at about $400,000 or $500,000. Yeah, that's a good hard worker as a surgeon. Something like that, and they do work hard. But the people who are sitting on their butts collecting their money through their capital investments, they don't do anything except sit around and talk on the phone.
Yep, I'm with you. Paul, thank you. Very, very well said. Stanley in Missoula, Montana. Hey, Stanley, what's on your mind?
I'm going to take you off speaker.
Thank you, Stanley.
Yes, I was talking, I just came in, and I personally think that our system should legalize marijuana, and the government should really look at that closely.
Yeah, I agree.
And that all drugs, and we need to have safe spaces where people who need to get their drugs tested in a safe environment and shoot up if they need to.
Yep.
It's starting to happen across the country now on a local level.
Yeah, it is, and it's a good thing. I agree with you, Stanley. Stanley, I want to get one more caller in before the end of the show. Thank you for the call. Very well said. Wendell in Sandwich, Illinois. Wendell, we got a little less than 1 minute. What's on your mind? Wendell? Oh, geez. Okay. Rick in Placentia, California. Hey, Rick. The minute is yours.
Hey, Tom. Thanks for taking my call. I actually work for H&R Block, helping expatriated U.S. citizens out of the country do their taxes. What scares me about this whole tax plan is them taking away some of these big deductions, like the mortgage interest,
moving expenses.
Yeah, all those kind of things. There's one other thing, though, that they talk about how people are going to have a bigger imprint, or he's going to double the standard deduction for a lot of people. I mean, you can just do the math on that and find out that that's just incorrect. If you double the standard deduction and take away people's exemptions, you are going to make them pay more in taxes because you're going to have more taxable income.
Yeah, and the more kids they have, the more badly hurt they get.
Yeah,
spot on.
A single mom who makes $30,000. So what? You're going to claim head of household, and they double that standard deduction from $9,300 to $18,600. But if you're taking away those $4,050,
Rick, I got to cut you off. I'm out of time, but you're absolutely right. Thank you for the call. I appreciate it. And don't forget, democracy is not a spectator sport. It requires all of us. It's time to get out there, get active, call your senators, tag you're it. We'll see you tomorrow.
You've been listening to Thom Hartmann. For audio and video archives, visit thomhartmann.com.
The Thom Hartmann Program is brought to you in part by the Aiden Forecast, an investment newsletter with weekly updates of leading market indicators and a monthly deep dive into what the details of the economy and the markets mean for investors and retirees. On the web at aidenmarkets.com.
Wines have some of the highest pesticide levels in our food chain. This hour brought to you by ecowine.com. Pesticide-free wines, organic wines, imported from France by the Organic Wine Company, ecowine.com.
The Hartmann Program is brought to you in part by Super Beets. Super beets are sourced from non-GMO beets, and they're packed with dietary nitrates, helping to produce nitric oxide for more energy, stamina, and support for healthy blood pressure levels naturally. For more information, call 800-223-8242 or visit tomsbeets.com.